Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Week 2 NFL Live Before Lock here at Stokastic. So if you guys have watched the show before, you probably know what you're going to be getting. For the next 45 minutes, I'm going to build lineups with you guys here on screen. We're also going to touch on the projections and ownership that we have here at Stokastic. After me, you're going to get 45 minutes of Loughy and Ben on the deep dive. They're going to go through every single game individually on the slate, go through any kind of takes that they have in terms of any sort of injury news, player usage, what they're liking in each game, anything along those lines. And then finally, it is going to be Eric and Spags on Live Before Lock for the final 90 minutes. And they are going to be going over any of the final late breaking news, projection changes, ownership, any question you guys have, all of that kind of stuff. So Mike Campbell, I don't know how I scared the shit out of you. Doing what? Saying good morning? I mean, come on. Show had to start here eventually. But yeah, so if you guys are a Stokastic sub and you have any questions for me over the course of the show while we're building lineups here, hit me up in Discord. I will be looking out for any of those that come about. If you guys want to leave a super chat and have me evaluate your lineups for you, we could certainly do that as well. And then other than that, let's just check out the projections and get ourselves started. Beginning with the quarterback position here for today, we've got a handful of quarterbacks here projected for north of 20 fantasy points. Let's sort by projections here in the single lineup sim. This is actually, I think off memory, the most quarterbacks we've ever had projected for north of 20 fantasy points for an individual slate. We've got Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Fields, and Patrick Mahomes all projected for north of 20 fantasy points. So lots of good-looking pay-up options to be going to at the quarterback position. If we sort by ownership, you guys will see no real chalk at the position. Given what we just said in the projections, it's not all that surprising, but the popular quarterbacks are generally the spend-up options here. We've got Josh Allen 10% owned, Joe Burrow just under 10% owned, Lamar Jackson 8.5% owned, Jalen Hurts 8% owned. So all of the quarterbacks that are pulling some ownership, it's the studs, it's the MVP candidates, the household names. These are the guys the field is generally gravitating towards at quarterback. But with that said, no problematic ownership. It's pretty spread out. Josh Allen, the chalkiest of the group. If we go to running back now, here's what we're looking back at the running back position. We have here Christian McCaffrey leading the way, and this should be no surprise. So I don't know how we've gotten into this situation, but coming into week 1, what do we think about the 49ers? Is Christian McCaffrey going to play? What's the health of his calf? Even if he plays, he's going to be limited in any kind of way. And after just one game, it seems like Christian McCaffrey is the only healthy player left on the 49ers. So you've got a 49ers team that is very banged up. Christian McCaffrey, insanely large workload, despite some of the questions about his health going into week 1. So now with everybody else banged up for the team, you're coming off a game where Christian McCaffrey, 22 rushing attempts, 10 targets, caught 9 of them last week. He is going to be the chalk. He's the highest projected player on the slate. And I want as much of Christian McCaffrey as I could reasonably fit into my lineups. I think he is the highest ceiling of anybody on the slate. And I think his floor is insanely high as well in a plus matchup against the Saints when you consider that he had 31 touches last week and 10 of them were 9 receptions, 10 targets in the passing game. So I love getting to Christian McCaffrey. I think he's the best overall play on the slate. He's going to be very popular, and I think it is very, very much warranted. Your other running backs that are projected from north of 20 fantasy points, Derrick Henry and Jahmyr Gibbs. Then you've got Saquon Barkley, Chase Brown, Devon Achane, just under 20 fantasy points. Ownership at the running back spot, Christian McCaffrey, he's your chalk at 35% ownership, just around 20% owned, Chase Brown and Devon Achane. And then in the teens, you've got Jahmyr Gibbs, Kyron Williams, and James Conner. As far as value goes at the running back position, this goes to show how good of a play Christian McCaffrey is. Despite being $7,500, he is our top projected value play at the running back spot from a points per dollar standpoint. As far as guys who are a little bit cheaper, you've got Tony Pollard at $5,900. You've got Kyron Williams at $6,300. Javonte Williams at $5,800. Those are some other points per dollar plays that are standing out in our data. Wide receiver now. Let's sort by the projections here. We've got at the top end, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua. Those are your 3 top pay-up options per the Stokastic data. And then if you're going down to the next grouping of players in projected fantasy points, you've got Malik Neighbors, Jackson Smith and Jigba. You've got A.J. Brown, who was pretty uninvolved in the offense last week for the Eagles. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas, Tyreek Hill. By the way, also, I see R. Stanley in chat asking, do you hear anything about Neighbors hurt? So he's been kind of limited in practice. Even heading into week 1, he was, but it doesn't seem to be anything really significant. I think it's more so just that they know that he's going to get big workloads in games. And, they already know that he's the number 1 wide receiver on the team, one of the best wide receivers in the league. I just don't think there's that much of a need to push him in practice. Is he 100%? Probably not, but it's not anything that I'm overly concerned about or anything like that. As far as ownership goes at wide receiver, we've got Hollywood Brown, projected for north of 20% ownership. He's your chalkiest player at the position. And another piece of ownership that I think is pretty warranted. Last week, the Kansas City Chiefs, who we already know they weren't going to have Rashee Rice because of the suspension to start the year. And then Xavier Worthy, very early into the game, runs into Travis Kelce, bangs up his shoulder. It looked like it was going to be a pretty significant injury, but seems like he avoided that. Xavier Worthy did practice a little bit this week, but for the purpose of today, doesn't matter. He's not playing. He's been ruled out. So you got Hollywood Brown, who was one of the only guys that the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes had to throw to, given how banged up the wide receiving core is. So you had Hollywood Brown last week, 16 targets, catches 10 of them for 99 yards. That kind of workload for him at $5,200, yeah, it makes sense why he would be the most popular pass catcher on the entire slate here, just over 20% owned. Another piece of chalk that I do think is warranted for today. You've also got Jamar Chase, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Puka Nacua, CeeDee Lamb. These are the other wide receivers who are projected for at least around 15% ownership. As far as value goes at the wide receiver spot, here are the top points per dollar plays. Leading the way, it's Hollywood Brown, followed by Jackson Smith and Jigba. Chris Olave, he's healthy for now. Is he going to be healthy 2-3 weeks from now? No, he's probably going to land in the concussion protocol. Even that said, you had Chris Olave, I think like 3 times, had to go to the tent to be evaluated last week. But massive target share last week. Ends up catching a handful of passes. Was not efficient at all, but if you're going to have another game where Chris Olave is going to get, like 10, 11, 12 targets, yeah, he's a pretty good value option, $4,900. Ted McMillan, one of the other good points per dollar plays on the slate at $5,400. The question here is, what are we getting with Bryce Young this season? I want to get some exposure to Ted McMillan. I don't want to go crazy, though, because Bryce Young last year looked terrible to open the season. Gets benched. Andy Dalton ends up becoming the quarterback for the Panthers. Dalton gets into a car accident, and then all of a sudden you get Bryce Young thrust back into the starting lineup towards the tail end of the season. All of a sudden he looked really good. So coming into this year, there's a lot of optimism that, hey, Bryce Young, Panthers passing game, could it be improved considering they added Ted McMillan and some of the improvements you saw from Bryce Young last year? He looked just as bad last week as he did to open up last year. So I don't know exactly what to make of Bryce Young. If he is going to be decent this year, I think Ted McMillan has a really big fantasy season. But if Bryce Young is going to be as dog shit as he was last week and the start of last year, then you could only expect so much out of Ted McMillan with that incompetent level of play at the quarterback position. But still worthwhile to get some exposure to. At the tight end spot now, we have for projections, Trey McBride leading the way just under 16 fantasy points. Then a handful of other tight ends at 12 fantasy points, or I should say 10 plus. We'll group all these guys together. Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, Tyler Warren, who looked great in his first NFL game, Jake Ferguson, David Njoku, Mark Andrews. Tight end position is pretty loaded today. And then you've also got Harold Fannin, who is way underpriced. My favorite overall tight end option on the slate. We have him, I believe, best value play in our projections at the tight end position, Harold Fannin. It wasn't just that he looked good last week for the Browns, but he was so involved in the offense and in creative ways that it leads me to believe that this is going to be a guy who is going to have a pretty stable workload going forward. The Browns are clearly prioritizing getting the ball to Harold Fannin. He had a bunch of targets in the past game. He even lined up in the backfield on some plays. They are trying to get the ball to Fannin. He's underpriced. He's going to be more expensive than $3,100 going forward. Ownership. Nothing really all that crazy popular at tight end. Trey McBride, Harold Fannin, Travis Kelce, all just over 10% owned. So that is going to do it for our tight ends here. Let's see what we've got from chat for questions, if anything. All right, so Discord. Yeah, we've got a couple of questions here. One of them is from Hypnotoad. Do I have a favorite low-owned stack for single entry? And then Matty Ice wants to know Dallas stacks or Pat stacks. All right, so let's go ahead and start building some lineups. And by the way, also, as you guys are coming in here, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to sign up for any of the packages that we have here at Stokastic, links down below in the YouTube description box. And also, if you want to know the easiest way and the most cost-effective way to sign up for any of our Sims packages, check out our link join offer. For each one of the affiliate partners that you see here on screen that you sign up for, has to be through that link down below in the YouTube description box. And you'll see also the steps to follow. Look, you get 1 free month of Stokastic Sims for each one. This is a can't miss deal, because not only do you get the free month, a lot of these sites have deposit bonuses as well. So you'll have a situation where it's like $50 in free play on some of these sites and a free month of Stokastic Sims. Take advantage of these offers. These sites, some of them we get added to the link join program. Some of them end up pulling out of the link join program. So take advantage of these offers while they're here, and 1 free month of a single sport package of your choosing for each one of these sites you sign up for. So let's say that you want to sign up for 3 of the sites here. They stack together. You get yourself 3 free months of NFL Core Sims if that is the sport you want to choose. So take advantage of this offer, because I really do think that it is one of the better offers that we have here. And it's something that's pretty underutilized. People always ask, what is the best promo that you guys hear at Stokastic? It's the link join program. Take advantage of it. All right. Let's see what we could do with lineups here, beginning with a Hypnotoad wanting to know my favorite low-owned single entry stack for the slate. So one thing that I want to add here is there is no crazy popular quarterback. Like we were going over the quarterback ownership before, with the most popular QB being Josh Allen at 10%. There's no quarterback that I'm particularly concerned with the ownership on. Now, a stack I really like that is going to be low-owned. 49ers. Mac Jones is 2% owned and he's 4K. He's got a good matchup here against the Saints as well. In addition, there's no George Kittle. So the target's probably going to be pretty concentrated in the 49ers offense. I think we're seeing the bulk of them going to McCaffrey out of the backfield. Juwan Jennings, assuming the shoulder checks out. We got the report last night from Ian Rappaport that the 49ers are optimistic he will play today. I take that to mean that coach speak is always kind of weird in terms of some of the verbiage they use. I tend to think that means that he's going to be good to go, and Ricky Pearsall as well. So I'm actually going to make a triple stack here. All right, we're going to go McCaffrey. We're going to go Pearsall. And we're going to go Jennings. I don't think you need a run back from the Saints, but if you wanted to play a run back from the Saints, I think Olave is a reasonable way to go ahead and do that as well. So here's what we've got. We've got a pretty fun 5-man game stack here, right? We've got Mac Jones, and also very affordable. Mac Jones is 4K. Ricky Pearsall is $5,300. $4,800 for Jennings, $4,900 for Olave. And then obviously Christian McCaffrey at $7,500. He's on the high end of running back, but he's still, to me, like $2,500 cheaper than what he should be. And now you got a lot of money to play with as well. $5,875. Let's see if we, with 0% randomness, I'm curious just what the optimizer does to complete the lineup. All right, so who else lands in the lineup? Chase Brown, Trey McBride, Devon Achane, and then the Ravens defense, just $100 in salary left on the table. Let's sim this lineup out and see how it looks. Also, by the way, if you guys sign up for any of the packages that we have for NFL, they all come with access to the single lineup sims tool. Good morning, EMAC. What's up, dude? All right, 86.3% sim ROI. Good start. Good start to the day here. And then also, if you guys want to build multiple lineups with the same core, want to diversify, you could also put the randomness on to, I like using like 10% randomness, and that'll give you a little bit of diversity in some of the players you get and some of the lineups you fill out. Corey, I see you have a question here about the link join. I will tell you what to do. This also is going to apply to anybody else who is trying to sign up for any of the sites here. All right, so Corey signed up at Fanatics, got the promo code, but it's not working. Yeah, so just email support at stokastic.com, and NewsGod will help you out. So yeah, anybody who has any kind of questions, anything support related, just that email, support at stokastic.com, and NewsGod will get you sorted out. All right, so pretty good start to the day with an 86.3% sim ROI. And then we've got Matty Ice asked Dallas stacks or Pat stacks. All right, let's clear the locked players. I really like Dallas stacks as well against the Giants. So let's look at the Cowboys. Earlier in the week, it looked like Javonte Williams was going to be a really popular running back option. That's not the case anymore. He's pulling, some ownership, nothing crazy, but I still like the Cowboys anyway. So Wednesday, when Loughy and I were building lineups around the Cowboys, one of the reasons that we liked the Cowboys passing game as a stack was because it was at the time some leverage off of what was a then projected to be chalky Javonte Williams. But even though the ownership has come down on Williams, I still think there's a lot of merit to playing Cowboys stacks, even if it isn't for the exact same reasons. Instead, I think one of the reasons to do it is just because the Giants defense, I think, is going to be substantially better than their offense, but it is a little bit unbalanced. I think the Giants are going to have a better run defense than pass defense. And I do think that is something that we could exploit here. And then another thing to consider as well, CeeDee Lamb, despite the high-profile drops that he had in week 1, he still drew a lot of targets, had over 100 receiving yards. I think he's going to be one of the leading receivers in the NFL for the season. I wouldn't be deterred just because of some drops for last week. And there's a couple of really clear options for me in the Cowboys passing game. I think the targets are mostly going to be centered around CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, and then George Pickens to a lesser degree as well. But I really like this as a double stack with Dak Prescott. This is going to be something in a lot of my lineups for this week. Prescott, Lamb, Ferguson. That's the double stack that I really like making with Prescott for the week. Now let's go to some of the other players that I like a good amount for this slate. I know some of them are going to be chalk, but whatever. I like them. Sometimes you can like the chalk sometimes. It's okay. Hollywood Brown, Christian McCaffrey, going to throw them into the lineup. We didn't have Hollywood Brown in the first lineup that we built out. So we're going to put both of them in. And let's also throw in JSN. I like him a good amount for the week. And then we'll just complete the lineup with 10% randomness and see what ends up filling out the lineup with. We got Jahmyr Gibbs. All right. So a couple of pay-up running backs in McCaffrey and Gibbs. We've got Harold Fannin as well. So a double tight end lineup. We did leave a little bit of salary on the table at $400. So if we wanted to, we could upgrade like a defense or one of these other spots. But overall, I don't have any issues with anything in this lineup. And it is a core of players that I generally like a good amount. Prescott, McCaffrey, Gibbs, Lamb, JSN, Hollywood Brown, Jake Ferguson, Fannin, Dolphins defense. Don't ever be afraid of playing the double tight end lineups. It's one of the more underutilized lineups by the field. Let's see what we're getting to here in terms of sim ROI. And then Sniffs1234 in the Discord channel asked what archetype am I running for single entry, high dollar, and low dollar. So you kind of answered this. This lineup came out looking really good, nearly a 120% sim ROI. So Sniffs wants to know what archetype for single entry, high dollar, and low dollar. Your answer is right there. What slider you use in the contest generator. So this probably isn't apparent to you guys because I'm just using the single lineup sims here. But for the contest generator and the simulation tool, you want to gear that towards whatever the buy-in is of the contest you're playing. So he asked for high dollar, what setting should he use? You go to high dollar. For low dollar, what setting to use? You want to go to low dollar. And then for marquee, that's kind of everything in between. So the contest you're going to most often use for the marquee setting, that's like your milli makers, your flea flicker, the slant, things like that. Anything that's those massive big contests that have, like $5 to $25 buy-ins, use the marquee for that. And then for the things that are like $100+ you would slide the slider a little bit more towards the high stakes setting. And then when you're looking at contests that are like the dollar, the 50 cent, the quarter, the 10-cent contest, go to the low stakes for that. So it all depends what contest buy-in it is that you're talking about there, Sniffs. But those are the R-type settings that I am generally sliding towards for those kinds of buy-ins. All right. What was the other question that we had in here? No, that answered all the questions we had in Discord. So let's clear this out. I want to go over a contrarian stack that I like as well for DraftKings, and then we'll move over to FanDuel and start building some FanDuel lineups. All right. So you guys aren't going to like this. I'm fairly sure of that. I like the stack week 1. It sucked. It went very poorly. But I'm back on it at very low ownership for the slate. The Miami Dolphins. Tua looked terrible last week. The Dolphins could just be totally discombobulated. This could be a situation where they've quit on McDaniels. The team has no cohesion. It's a possibility. The narrative, though, is that Tua isn't able to recover from the concussions. I don't know about that because Tua played really well after coming back from injury last year. So pulling up the game log that we saw from him after coming back from injury. All right, so he comes back in November of last year. And all right, yeah. So listen to the stretch of games that Tua had after coming back from injury. So he's already had, I can't count that high. There's only so many numbers that I could count to. Tua's had 1 billion concussions. Nobody knows the number. Scientists are looking into it. It's impossible. It's such a big number. But when he came back from injury last year, listen to the stretch of games that he had. Against the Raiders, 288 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Against the Patriots, 317 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Against the Packers, 365 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Against the Jets, 331 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So with that in mind, I am light on the idea that because of these concussions, Tua has forgotten how to play quarterback. I don't think that's the case. It could be the case that this Dolphins team is just completely out of whack and has no cohesion, but it's only one game of the season. Teams have bad games all the time. If this bad game happened in week 6 as opposed to week 1, I think the narrative would be different. At the kind of ownership the Dolphins have right now, 2% for Tua. And then at wide receiver, we've got Tyreek Hill 10% owned, Jalen Waddle 5% owned. I am willing to buy low on the Miami Dolphins. And it's also not hard to get overweight to the field team as a stack. 2 is 2% owned. If you guys are playing 20 lineups and one of them is a 2 stack, you're double the field on exposure to the Miami Dolphins. And then also you're getting yourself a little bit of leverage. Now that we've got our ownership updated closer to Sunday, and I don't have an issue with Achane being in Dolphins stacks with Tua, but if you are focusing on the Dolphins passing game, Achane is now 20% owned, right? Go back and look at the the running back ownership that we have. Devon Achane is the 3rd most popular running back on the slate. In fact, he is the 4th most popular player overall on the slate. You're getting real leverage here in the event that Tua looks good and the fantasy points come through the Dolphins passing game. So I like this as a stack to be playing. I don't feel a need to have a run back from the Patriots. I think the Patriots offense is kind of hard to nail down. I don't know who's going to emerge as the number 1 wide receiver for them this year. Stephon Diggs did not look great last week. The last I checked, his receptions prop is 3.5 for this week. And then on top of it as well, in the backfield, they've said that they're going to mix up some of the playing times for the week. So I don't know if that means Henderson all of a sudden is going to play a massive workload or anything like that. But Stevenson touched him last week. So I don't know what to do with players from the Patriots. There's nobody I really want to be prioritizing there. So I'm good with building Dolphin stacks and not having a run back. So let's build around this. And now also, when you've got a team that's this contrarian, you could kind of play whoever else you want in this lineup, and you don't have to be too concerned about ownership. So you like Christian McCaffrey like I do? We could play him. You like Hollywood Brown, a wide receiver, and he's super chalky? Doesn't matter. We've already got a lot of other contrarian pieces in the lineup. And now also, it's fairly cost-effective as well because Tua is $5,300, Tyreek Hill only $6,400, Waddle $5,400. I'm still going to go to Fannin at tight end. And let's see, we've got $5,700 left. I'll plug in Chase Brown. And let's complete the lineup now. Let's see what the rest of it looks like. I want to take Achane out because part of the reason to build in this lineup is we're trying to get leverage off of Achane. So I'll remove him. If he shows up again when I run the optimizer here, then okay, cool. We got Chase Brown instead. So we ended up getting Jahmyr Gibbs, Chase Brown, Dolphins defense to fill. All right, so it's like a Dolphins onslaught with the defense as well. Let's see how this sims out. And also, I like the Dolphins more than our data. This might not even come out looking good. I don't care. I'm playing the Dolphins this week. Well, let's see. Matty Ice wants to know, is it still optimal to have a 4 p.m. player in the flex? You don't have to have a player from the 4 p.m. game in the flex. So don't misinterpret the reason for having a 4 p.m. player in the flex. It's not because it's flat out better to have somebody at the 4 p.m. in the flex. It's if you have the option between playing somebody in a 1 p.m. game and a 4 p.m. game in the flex, you're taking the 4 p.m. guy because it gives your lineup more flexibility. You don't just blindly have to play somebody from the 4 p.m. game in the flex, though. By the way, this lineup came out looking much better than I thought. 109.9 sim ROI. All right, we're doing good here so far. Let's go over to FanDuel. And I'll clear out these guys too. And FanDuel. We'll build out some lineups here. Let me make sure there weren't any super chats that we missed. And no, I think we're good there. And from Discord, Hypnotoad, what site are you asking for that lineup? Hypnotoad asked us to sim a lineup from Discord. It's Hurts, Barkley, CMC, Hollywood Brown, Devonta Smith, Olave, McBride, Fannin, Colts defense. I think that's a DraftKings lineup off the top of my head, but we haven't built a FanDuel one yet, so I'm going to build a FanDuel lineup, and then when Hypnotoad answers whether that was for DraftKings or FanDuel, we'll go back and build that lineup for him. All right. So for FanDuel, what are some of the primary differences between DraftKings and FanDuel for this slate? First and foremost, Tony Pollard is $5,900 at running back. I know he's $5,900 on DraftKings as well, but $5,900 relatively is cheaper over on FanDuel than it is on DraftKings. So Tony Pollard is somebody who I'm going to want to have in a lot of my FanDuel lineups. I'm going to start by putting him in here. Some other noticeable differences over on FanDuel as compared to DraftKings. Zay Flowers is only $6,300. He is somebody who, once again, is about similarly priced over on DraftKings, but just with the pricing being a little bit different, this goes further over on FanDuel. So Zay Flowers is going to be another core play for me over on the FanDuel side of things. Those are two guys who I get to way more exposure to in the sims on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings. Let's see. Who are some of the other ones that were really different from a price perspective for me? Yeah, nothing else that is like glaringly different. It's not like there's other guys on DraftKings I get to a lot of that don't show up on FanDuel, but these are the two primary guys that are core plays for me on FanDuel and a little bit less so on DraftKings. All right, so let's make a stack now around a couple of these guys that I just talked about. And, because it came up in the chat and we haven't built one yet, let's build a Jalen Hurts lineup here. I like Jalen Hurts as well on DraftKings and FanDuel. So now Jalen Hurts, here's a sneaky way that I think to stack Jalen Hurts. I know that A.J. Brown is pulling some projected ownership for this week. Ownership projections are based on data. A.J. Brown was hardly involved in the Eagles offense to the point where you've got people doing the fake trade scenarios. Where is A.J. Brown going to be traded after this week's game? He had one catch on one target for 8 yards last week. I don't think the field is going to want to go to him. My best guess is he comes underweight to his projected ownership. I like Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown as a stack, and I don't think the field wants to do this. I don't think anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. So Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, that's going to be our stack here. I'll lock this in case the lineup doesn't come out good and we want to do some rebuilds. At running back, I want to go to Christian McCaffrey again. At tight end over on FanDuel, let's go to Dallas Goedert to make it a double stack. Where's Goddard? Or not. Let's go to... I forgot that Goddard was ruled out yesterday. My bad. All right, so instead of Goddard, let's go to Devonta Smith. That was a brain fart by me. All right, let's go to Devonta Smith to make it a double stack. Okay, so we've got Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. And let's just complete the lineup now. All right. I will, by the way, YouTube is muting all the comments, people calling me morons. I have to make sure I unmute them so that I could be called out for this. There we go. None of them have been hidden by YouTube now. All right. So we've got Hurts to Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. Then we got McCaffrey, Chase Brown, Zay Flowers, Sam Laporta, Tony Pollard, Seahawks defense in the lineup. Let's run the sim. Fantastico asked a question. If Jennings is ruled out today, what are the pivots that I recommend? All right. So first of all, I think Jennings is going to end up playing. I don't think he's going to be ruled out. If he is ruled out, I just want to play a shit ton of Ricky Pearsall. I don't know that there's all of a sudden some other... I'll see what our data ends up projecting. But also, I already like Christian McCaffrey a ton. I would like Christian McCaffrey even more in that scenario. I think Jennings is going to end up playing, though. All right. So we've got an 81.7% sim ROI. Cool. All right. Looks pretty good. I'm good with that. Hypnotoad wanted to build that lineup out for DraftKings. All right, so let's go back to DraftKings. Build Hypnotoad's lineup. See the lineups we built, or at least the core that we had before. We didn't finish that lineup because I had it cleared. That's still saved. So if you guys are ever building lineups in here and you just want to build a partial part of a lineup, you could just save it and come back to it later. All right. So the lineup was Hurts, Barkley. By the way, I don't love Hurts with Barkley just because their touchdowns are so negatively correlated once you get down to the 1 yard line. I generally don't like playing them together. CMC, Hollywood Brown, Devontae Smith, Hypnotoad in this lineup also has McBride, Fannin, and the Colts defense. Olave, McBride, Fannin. Have to put him at flex. And then the Colts defense. Where are the Colts? All right. So you got $300 left to play. Honestly, I would just upgrade the Colts defense to a slightly more expensive one because you have the salary to play with. But let's build it out, see how it sims. As long as it comes out looking fine, then obviously don't have to make any kind of real changes there. $24.7% Samurai. Solid. No issue with that there, Hypnotoad. Looks like a reasonable lineup. I think the easiest way to upgrade it or make it a little bit better is you got $300 to play with. Just upgrade the Colts defense to a defense that projects a little bit better, and that'll probably add a little bit of percentage points to the sim ROI. Super chat here from See You at the Top. He wants to know for DraftKings, Drake May, Devon Achane as a run back there. Who are you stacking with? Okay, you got Henry as your stack with Drake May. All right, so we got May to Henry. Would help if I could spell. There we go. May, Henry, and then you've got Achane and CMC at running back. So that'll be right towards the Achane and CMC. So that'll be right towards the top here. And then at wide receiver, you got Tyreek. So interesting. So you're going Drake May to Hunter Henry and then 2 run backs from the Dolphins. Olave, Hollywood Brown. And then you've got Chase Brown and the Rams defense. And okay, that's going to be all of it. Let's see. I think this lineup will end up looking okay. I don't think our data loves Drake May, so that might be one thing that holds it back a little bit. But let's see. Thanks for the super chat. See you at the top. And then we'll go back to FanDuel here in a second. 17.9% sim ROI. It's positive. It's positive. Could definitely be a little bit better, but no real massive issues with that lineup either. One other thing I want to tell you guys about, if you have not checked it out yet, go over to Tails. If you guys want a place to just get the bets that you're looking for, go over to go to your search bar, tails.bet. And I'm going to walk you through what you're going to do here. You could follow myself, Loughy, Ben, Eric. You can follow all of us for free on Tails. You make an account, it's free. You download the app, it's free. And here's something really cool you could do. Follow us, right? So I'll just type in me here. Greg, that's me. All right. Press my name. Say follow. And now, when you go to your picks tab, you can see the people that you're following. We'll skip past the favorite sports books for now. And now you're going to get a feed of just my bets that I have posted recently. And if you download the app and you turn notifications on, once again, this is all totally free. Everything I post is free over on Tails. You can get all of the bets that I am posting 100% free. Just go to tails.bet or go to the Google Play Store, Apple Store, whatever it is, download the app, and you guys could see the bets that I have posted here for this week. So I've got Brock Bowers over 5.5 receptions. Also, one of the reasons to have notifications turned on, you see a lot of these, the lines have moved. So Brock Bowers over 5.5 receptions. I bet it at plus 110. It's even money now. Dalton Kincaid, I bet him over 28.5 receiving yards. This line is still available. Here I posted some college football DFS data yesterday. Here's a baseball bet from yesterday. Tyler Warren over 4.5 receptions. I bet it at plus 124 over earlier in the week. It's plus 110 now. Travion Henderson, I bet him for over 33.5 rushing yards when we got word that it looked like he was going to be playing a little bit larger of a workload. I bet that at minus 110. Now it's 34.5 and minus 115. Super easy. It's totally free also. We're just trying to give you guys better betting information, and you can find the bets that you want to. There's a search bar where you can just search for, let's say you wanted to find a Patriots bet. You're a Patriots fan. They're playing on Monday Night Football or something like that. You just go to the search bar and just search Patriots, and you'll find all the posted bets that include the Patriots as well. So go on over to tails.bet and check us out over there. What do we have from Discord for a question? All right, couple of questions here. Sally Sal, playing one lineup per FanDuel GPP, what stack do I go to? All right, so if you're just playing one lineup on FanDuel, I would say probably Dak Prescott, just looking at the FanDuel lineups that I've built out in the sim so far. Prescott's the one I have the most exposure to. I would say Prescott to CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. Then Cream wants to know, how much do I like Justin Fields for today? A little bit, not a ton, though. I generally like a lot of the spend-up quarterbacks. I also think a lot of people are just going to gravitate towards Justin Fields because of how well he played last week and how good the Jets offense looked. I think there's going to be a lot of recency bias there where people are going to overcompensate for Fields only being 1% owned last week, and they're going to want to play him. And I think that's ultimately going to mean he comes in a little bit higher owned than what his projected ownership is. So I'm not going to tell you he isn't viable, but how much do I like him relative to the field? Probably not as much as what the field is going to like him. Let's go back to FanDuel because we built out a lot more DraftKings lineups than FanDuel lineups. Want to make sure that we have FanDuel represented here as well. So let's see. What's a stack that we haven't built out yet? We haven't done a Lamar stack. So let's go Lamar to Zay Flowers. And we'll see what that does to the rest of the pricing because Lamar's pretty expensive, $8,500. So we'll go to Lamar with Zay Flowers. And then at running back, let's go to Pollard for some value. And then I'll go to CMC. He's going to be in a lot of my lineups this weekend. Hard for me to do. Also, our data likes Christian McCaffrey so much that any lineup in the single lineup sims that doesn't have Christian McCaffrey, it is just going to be markedly different than lineups that do have him. So we're going to get better results by including McCaffrey in these lineups. I want to run back here with Fannin. So let's plug in Fannin at 5K over on FanDuel. Fannin still looks good on FanDuel, but he is definitely a little bit stronger looking of an option on DraftKings at the $3,100 price tag. Because at 5K on FanDuel, there isn't that much of a price gap between Fannin and Tyler Warren or Fannin and Sam Laporta or Fannin and Mark Andrews. It's just the tight ends are very, very closely priced together over on FanDuel. So I still like Fannin, but DraftKings, he's probably going to be my most rostered tight end. On FanDuel, he's just going to be a guy who's in my player pool. Let's build around this now. All right, so rest of the lineup, we got Chase Brown, Tyreek Hill, Hollywood Brown, and the Dolphins defense. Let's see how this comes out. And then, Jeff, I see your super chat, so I will build that lineup out for you next. And one more time, if you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. 5 minutes from now, I'm going to be handing this over to Ben and Loughy. So make sure you like this and show some support before they get here on screen. All right, 35.2% sim ROI. Okay. Not like fantastic like some of the other lineups, but still solid. What's the lineup we have here from Jeff? All right, so you are going with a Mac Jones lineup here. All right, Mac Jones. You know what's something that we could do that I think will be fun for future weeks that I didn't think of until right now? I think we could start this out. We could save some of the lineups and I'll build a single entry lineup. I'll save it. And then also all of the lineups you guys super chat, I'll save those as well. And then as we wrap up, I could compare all those lineups. So we could see the projected fantasy points and the sim ROIs that we got on all those individual lineups as well. All right, McCaffrey and Gibbs. McCaffrey, Gibbs. And then at wide receiver, you're going with Flowers, Chase, and Pearsall. Flowers, Pearsall. Liking all these options so far. Fannin, also, as you guys know, I'm a fan of. No pun intended. I assume Marvin Harrison. Yeah, Marvin Harrison's the only Harrison on the slate. And then at defense, you went to the Colts. Okay, Colts defense at 2,600 to fill it out. And you said for the Millie, we've got this set as top heavy in large field, so it should be good. What do we got? Sim ROI here is 53.2%. Looks good, Jeff. Looks good, Jeff. And then, like I was saying before, something we could do for future weeks that I didn't think of until right now. You guys see here that the data here for the lineups you've already built and simmed gets saved. So the last lineup that we built in here, this was the super chat from, that was See You at the Tops lineup. So we can compare all these lineups and maybe we could gamify it a little bit too. So we got See You at the Tops lineup had 137.37 fantasy point projection, ended up with a 53.2% sim ROI. And then we have the lineup. Oh, I didn't save the other lineup. But then there was also the Drake May lineup that we had simulated out, which has the 17. I think this was Hypnotoads with the 17.9% sim ROI and the 140.82 fantasy point projection. So, yeah, we could save a bunch of lineups in here. I think it'd be a fun way to just look at all of them and recap at the end of the show. All right, just a couple of minutes left to go here. I'm going to build out one really fast final FanDuel lineup because we haven't built out quite as many FanDuel lineups. Got a couple minutes to play with. So let's rapid fire. I just want to go a Josh Allen naked lineup, and let's just see how this ends up coming out. So we're going to go Josh Allen, 10% randomness. Just going to press complete the lineup. I don't think we're going to get a pass catcher if he's in the lineup. We got Chase Brown, Tony Pollard, A.J. Brown, George Pickens, Jalen Waddle, Trey McBride. Oh, we did. We did get to James Cook. I don't actually like that. I'm gonna re-roll that. So let's clear this. I should have just locked Josh Allen in. I was overconfident that I was going to like the lineup. All right, there we go. Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Chase Brown, Malik Neighbors, DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Jake Ferguson, Tony Pollard, Dolphins defense. How does a naked Josh Allen lineup look this week? Let's see. If it doesn't come out good, then I'll throw in I'll throw in one of his pass catchers into the lineup and see how that alters the sim ROI. Ended up coming out pretty good, 95.6% sim ROI. No issue with that at all. Josh Duck wanted to know if I could do a Dak lineup. I did make some Dak lineups if you rewind a little bit. But yeah, we went over some Dak lineups. I really like making Dak lineups for FanDuel and DraftKings. Also, for reference, before I leave here, I'll let you guys know what I got in the Sims on my last run for FanDuel. I got to, I'm overweight to CeeDee Lamb. I'm overweight to Dak Prescott. I'm overweight to George Pickens. And then also a tight end, I'm overweight to Jake Ferguson. So all of those pieces of the Cowboys passing game, I ended up coming in overweight to in the Sims on the FanDuel side of things. So Cowboys look really good to me. Let's turn this over to Josh and Ben. So if you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, don't forget, if you want to sign up for any package here at Stokastic, the absolute best way to do it is to sign up for any of our partners using the link down below in the YouTube description box. For each one of these you sign up for, you're going to get 1 free month of Sims Core Access for a single sport of your choosing. So you want to pick 4 or 5 of these sites, go ahead, sign up for all of them. And for each one, you're going to get a free month. They stack on top of each other. You get yourself free NFL sims for the entire rest of the season. So go ahead and take advantage of that offer, guys, because it might not be here forever. So get yourself some free stuff while you can. Other than that, good luck with your lineups and stick around. Ben and Loughy, they're next.
Turn it over to Josh and Loughy, he says. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? You heard that, right?
No, I didn't, but that's...
Been doing this show for 17 years now. For 17 years, and I'm referred to as Josh on the Sunday morning Deeper Dive show.
Well, I don't know if that's a good or bad omen, but I am here, whether they like it or not.
See, what I love is you bring energy out of the gate and make people think, hey, I made the right decision tuning into this show.
Come on now. They did make the right decision. I actually feel great, even though I will say, this happened to me many a times, woke up slightly early today. It was like extra half hour. I'm going to be in even better shape. I'm further behind than I was last week, so I don't know what exactly I did wrong. But yeah, man, NFL Sundays, I wouldn't have it any other way. Feeling good. College football, great success yesterday. That momentum is going to be carried into the show.
I love it. Anyway,
stories here, so you know
we love Greg Ehrenberg. We love Josh Engelman. We love them all. But we love football week 2, baby. I like your Wire shirt, by the way.
Thank you.
Always happy to see you rocking the
Tommy
shirt from the greatest show in television history. I still have to watch that one on HBO you told me about. Actually, look, that's the Mark Ruffalo one, right?
Shout out Task.
Yeah.
Only one episode in, but it was good.
Anyway, good morning to all of you guys. Very happy to have you with us. We love you all, and it's time to talk a little bit of football. 12-game slate. Yeah. And Daniel, no, I haven't been doing this for 17 years.
Feels like it.
That was an exaggeration. Sometimes it does feel that way. Like, shit, dude, I'm 38 doing still doing this, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Always love having you guys hang out with us every single Sunday. Ben and I mean, look, we have actually been doing this show together, I think, for since 2016 now, right? On FanVice prior to this.
It's been a while and a lot of good moments on this show. So yeah, you know what, like I said, it's a Sunday morning tradition. You always say people atone. That's become a staple of it. We're here. We're ready to go. I like the slate better than last week for what it's worth, so I feel good.
That's right. Atone for your sins this fine Sunday morning. Maybe you should be elsewhere, but you're here hanging out.
Should you?
Assuming I went to church on a Saturday afternoon yesterday.
Well, good for you.
Yeah. My 22 months, so almost 2-year-old, a terror.
Yeah, you're one of those people. Good job. Way to disrupt the service.
No, I take her out. Her out. Yeah. She's a good kid. She just doesn't want to sit there and listen to,
Probably want to watch college football.
She doesn't want to sit there and listen to a homily. Actually, she sat and watched football with me on Sunday for a while and loved it. So anyway, appreciate you guys. Take a single second, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It goes a very long way. And I'll tell you this much, if you guys don't mind, you hitting us with a little support here, we appreciate you. It helps feed the algo and all that good stuff. So if you think somewhere along the way this is helpful, maybe even just entertaining, or you enjoy fading all of the plays, whatever it may be, interact, engage, hit the thumbs up. Appreciate it. Gary, my daughter turned 2 today, and we're going through the terrible state. Yeah, dude. Well, it's funny because my oldest, when she was 2, she was great. And then the terrible, it's because she was bad. She sucked at 3. The terrible 1s, the terrible 2s, the terrible 3s, the terrible 4s. They're all terrible. No, I'm kidding. But it is tough, man. It's definitely, it's really tough. But thanks to you guys choosing us to hang out with today. We got a lot to get into. Ben, 12 games this week because we have a doubleheader on Monday night. So that should be fun, right?
It's going to be good.
Doubleheader. I guess we had 12 last week too, though, right? Because there was a Friday game.
Friday. Yep. Same type of slate. Right. A little different, though, as we're going to get into right now. We've got a double-digit favorite. We've got some higher totals, different types of games. So it has a different feel to me than week 1.
I think it does, too. Actually, I like this a lot more than week 1. And I'm not just saying that because I lost 50% of everything in week 1. I'm saying it like I told you in week 1. I hit you up prior and I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing, man.
Yeah. It's week 1. You gotta get back into it.
Yep. Some good comments coming in on chat as well. But
it's gonna be a good day.
Let's dive into this. I ran the Sims. Tell you guys how to get phenomenal, essentially free access to the Sims in a little bit. How to get all of our bets for free over there on Tails throughout the season. Ben and I may have just thrown up a 4-leg anytime touchdown collab. What were the odds? Like plus 8,800, boosted at 50% on FanDuel, I think.
Yeah, the boosts are flying. I did a thread on college yesterday. NFL boosts. We're going to talk about plenty of that in the content on Tails because there's money to be made on that side as well.
Listen, the worst thing you can do with a boost, the worst way to play a boost is to not play it at all.
That's right.
I just made that up, but it's pretty good.
It's true.
It's true. The worst thing to do, the worst way to play a boost is to not play it at all. All right, let's dive into it, man. We got all of the games down there on the lower, and we're going to make things happen. Cleveland at Baltimore. Baltimore now 12.5 in some spots. I mean, look, once you get into this, it's kind of just a gray area, right, dude? Like once you get in between that, like 10.5 and 13.5, you see a lot of movement between that all the time where you're not really touching those key numbers, but it's bouncing in between that, right? Like 10.5 to 12.5. You see it often. This is a Cleveland team that I have to keep reminding myself that they didn't win last week. That's how bad Cincinnati was. And I thought Joe Flacco played well. 290 passing yards in that game. If you look back, the Bengals had 7 offensive yards in the second half. And you're going to look and you'll say, yeah, but Flacco threw 2 interceptions. Then you didn't watch the game because those went off the hands, one of them of Jerry Jeudy and the other one of Cedric Tillman. Were they perfect footballs, Ben? No. Okay, you're not always going to throw perfect balls. If they go off of 2 hands, though, no excuse whatsoever. You got to make a catch, or at the very least, make sure it doesn't get picked off. They should have won that game. It was not on Joe Flacco whatsoever. I thought he played a great game. Myles Garrett is an absolute freak, generational talent. Joe Burrow did not know what to do. They had a young rookie on the defensive line as well. And I've said it from the jump. I think not drafting Travis Hunter was by far the smartest thing they could have done. I'm not here to debate it, but I think it was great. If this defense can get back to similar to 2023 form, the team's not even that bad. Quinshon Judkins is expected to play today in a limited fashion, but also you're going – listen, somebody said, Loughy, thank you for respecting my Browns. If you want to come to a Browns respect show where we have egg on our face every year, it's Ben and me because we always back the Browns. It never ends well. But just setting the table here, man, it's like, yeah, they looked good last week. They should be 1-0. But Baltimore, dude, coming off that brutal loss that they had zero business losing, this could also be a game where they just win by 30.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned, you went through a nice monologue about how the Browns should have won. The Ravens really should have won then.
Both of them really should have won.
Yeah. I mean, this could clearly be a 1-0, two undefeated, 1-0 teams off to nice starts, and it's not. The Browns have some nice pieces, sure. They're in a bad spot here. I think everyone sees that. I'm not saying I'm laying 11.5, 12.5, because I'm not. The quote unquote free square and survivor, if you don't care about opportunity cost, is going to be the Ravens today. And then on the DFS side, normally I'd say this is a pretty safe assumption. When a team is this big of an underdog, we don't really have a lot to say, but your guy, and he's a lot of people's darlings right now, Mr. Fannin is going to be a key piece of this slate. I mean, I'm getting him a lot in the sim runs. I think a lot of people are interested in what he did off his 9 targets. He looked fantastic. He's cheap. So the Browns are not a throwaway team by any stretch today, even if I'm not getting a ton of Brown stacks or anything close to that.
Yeah, I agree. But there's another part of me that wants to just fade Harold Fannin Jr.
Fully?
And the reason I say, I'm saying this guy is going to end up being, I don't want to say crazy chalk. It's a 12-game slate, but I mean, I think he probably is pretty chalky. And as much as I like what we saw, I did some write-ups on him on Twitter on Sunday and Monday. There's also the fact that David Njoku isn't just dead, number one. And number two, we're still basing it off of one game against a Cincinnati defense that you can tell me they're improved and the run defense looked better last week. Okay, good. Against Sampson and Jerome Ford. Congratulations, But I'm not convinced that we're potentially, after a one-game sample, maybe undervaluing Njoku here. The fact that I'm right now in the Sims 36% Harold Fannin and 2% David Njoku, when we know in the past David Njoku has been a serious red zone threat and end zone threat and is still a talented pass catching tight end with loads of experience going in on the road to enemy territory in a tough matchup. Am I crazy to think that maybe we're overblowing this, and not just that, but props as well a little bit after one game?
For sure, there's some there. It's just the price is giving you so many ways that you're right, and you're still quote unquote wrong. You know what I mean? We don't need that big of a performance, and that's why it's, it opens up the rest of your lineup. So I'm not going to make some crazy stand where I'm locking a guy in like this, because it has been one game, and we're going to see a lot of, everybody does that in the NFL. I'm guilty of that. You take week one, whatever happened is what's going to happen. And obviously that is not how anything works. So we'll see. But even on the screen, you have, the cheap tight end, and then you have everybody else. There is a off a cliff situation with Cleveland today after you get past Fannin.
I know he's more expensive, but do you think if you're not going to a ton of Fannin, the argument is to play more Njoku or just not have much of either of them? Because, sorry, real quick. Yeah. Last week, you saw 76 offensive plays run for the Cleveland Browns. Just a lot, right? 64 snaps, Njoku was on the field 84% of the time. Fannin was on 55 snaps 72% of the time. So you're talking 12 personnel, a lot. I mean, they ran a lot of 12 personnel in that game. And then you start talking about, all right, well, what about routes run? Because we know that Harold Fannin Jr. Had more targets than David Njoku. He ran 31 routes. And David Njoku in that same game ran 41 routes, which, that's a lot when you consider that Flacco dropped back 48 times. So all I'm saying is that while Fannin did see more opportunities as far as raw targets go, Njoku ran a route on 41 of 48 dropbacks and played, all but 15% of snaps. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's still a talented player. He's still a threat. But everything that you said about Fannin is magnified even more the other way. He is going to cannibalize some of Njoku's production. And you're paying, again, it's $1,300. But even if you go percentage base, it's a lot. It's more than that when you get to tight end. So it's just really difficult. I'm still very confident Njoku's going to have some big games this year. I really do believe that. But on a slate like this, where there's a bunch of tight ends that I like both above and cheap, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to have Njoku.
Yep. Jay Nevy, yeah, that's a good point. Technically, it wasn't 12 personnel. They ran Fannin in the slot. Yeah, Fannin and Njoku combined for 26 plays ran in the slot. So, yeah, good point. But even so, they're going to be on the field a lot together, right? And if that's the case, both of them are somewhat viable. I don't know how much else to get to. Could this game shoot out? That is the question. Could this game shoot out? I think the answer is yes. But if you're going with a Flacco stack, you got to have some balls on you.
Yeah, I think any game could shoot out. No, I don't think this shoots out. If it crushes the total, I think it's because the score is like 43-17. I don't really call that a shootout.
But I'd still want a run back, I think, maybe in that situation if Flacco has to throw 50 times.
Sure. But it's going to come most likely as a run back to Lamar exposure with Flowers and some of these guys on the other side.
What do you want to do on the other side of this one with Baltimore? You look at Lamar Jackson. You already know that Lamar Jackson's skinny stacks are going to be popular. I have very, very little doubt about that. If you look at the top stacks tool here as well, top stack probability, you have Baltimore at 6%, but that's likely because you're just not getting as many doubles, Ben, because still outside of Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson is the second highest projected owned quarterback on the slate. We know they like to run the ball a lot. Probably skinny stacks is where you're going to be going here. And again, pulling up the top stacks tool, you guys can see it all here within the Stokastic tools. Allen and Lamar have the highest ownership. Top stack probability, Cincy is up there at 13% because Burrow is not someone that's going to run a whole lot. And Chase Brown's a capable pass catching back. You obviously have Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins, you name it. But going back to our exposure here, 10% Flowers, 6% Lamar, 1% Andrews. He might be dust at this point, Ben.
He might be, but he's another one. It's one game. He might not be dust.
Sure. But I think
I'm not. It'd be a safe assumption, but no, I looked closely at that. It was almost the same situation as Njoku for me. I was just like, outside of lottos, like I just don't know if I really need to make this type of hero call when I can keep it pretty standard. You mentioned the Lamar skinny with Flowers is going to be there. Obviously, you have Derrick Henry as well. You've got the Ravens defense. For a team with a very healthy implied total, you don't have that many secondary options. Like I think you're keeping a pretty condensed exposure to Baltimore today. I know that I am. I feel pretty good with that. I guess my only question is, do you think you'll have any naked Lamar? Just don't use Flowers.
Probably not.
That's where I'm at too, but I kind of see it.
I could see it too. The only thing I don't love is that it might end up being a game where you want Lamar and Henry, like with no pass catchers.
I mean, then you're going for like nuclear.
I know it sounds crazy, but it is something that happened. The reason I don't really want to run naked Lamar is because we've seen Zay Flowers when healthy. He dominates targets. You saw it in week 1. Again, I don't want to overreact, but still a massive target share. He's clearly the alpha in that offense. It's not Bateman. It's not Andrews anymore. And Andrews, whether he's dust or not, we can agree he's lost a step or 5, right? That's a fact. There's no Isaiah Likely. I'm not playing the Lamar and Henry lineups, but I'm just saying it might be the mega mind, as Eric Ronas said. The thing I don't love is that since they got Henry, they haven't prioritized running and Lamar like inside the 10-yard line. And I think that hurts him if you're running him naked. That's what I think hurts.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. My thought was more from a game theory standpoint. If you take all the Lamar lineups, an insane amount of them are going to have Zay Flowers.
Just Zay Flowers. So I agree with that. That might be the pivot if you're just trying to get different, but you want exposure to a team with a monster implied total. I hear you.
And there's a million wide receivers plus or minus a couple $100 from Zay Flowers. So there is a chance that he has a medium game, an uneventful game, and you actually wouldn't want him and Lamar has a couple on the ground. Or you could have a freak game where Lamar just goes crazy and Zay Flowers is quiet, or he could get hurt, anything like that. It's unlikely. These are all fringe cases, but I don't think it's a given that if Lamar gets there, Zay Flowers has to get there. It's not like Burrow to Chase or
no,
a guy who
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Plus, it's low enough passing volume that also kind of can stunt, everything as well. Plus, it could just be Bateman that has like 2 deep passes. It's a tough team. But the way I play this right now, I'm with you. You've sold me. I'll go to some Lamar naked stacks. But also, I don't think it's crazy to maybe go with like a Flowers and Bateman double. I think that's different as well.
Definitely. I would say Andrews, but I get what you're saying.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, Andrews probably better, but also Bateman's the type of guy that could have 3 for 80 and a touchdown or something, and he's 4,600. He's essentially the same price as Andrews. We saw Bateman last year. Didn't he have like 10 touchdowns?
Yeah, he was on the
he had a bunch
quite
of
the Westbrook-Akina train, but close.
Yeah. But also way better quarterbacking.
Yes. And he's a good player. I like Bateman.
Oh, I switched to the Rams, but quick thoughts on Derrick Henry here. To me, he's actually not someone I'll be getting a ton of today, only because I think it is, I know, right? Famous last words. But I also think this is just a really, really deep running back slate where I don't have to pay that premium.
Yeah. And believe me, I can speak firsthand to this. Anytime you don't have Derrick Henry exposure, you run the risk of being fully smoked because he can do that at any time. But having said that, there's a lot of weeks where those other shares going to other directions works out well. And to me, this is one of those weeks.
Me too. And we'll remember saying this if Henry rips off an 80-yard touchdown on the first drive. We certainly will.
Yeah.
But what are you supposed to do? And you can't play a lot of everybody. And if you're playing Henry at that price point, you're giving up a good amount. Also, I think the Browns' run defense is I think their D-line is pretty good. So does that matter? No, but that Bills' run defense could be a serious problem this year in not a good way. So
I bet the Jets today. Well,
so did I.
Story for another time.
Yeah, so did I earlier in the week. We'll see. I don't even think they could lose by 100. I'm betting the Jets at home I think I got them at 7-point dogs in a divisional spot every time. I am. Anyway, Rams 5.5-point favorites on the road against Tennessee. There aren't a lot of offensive players who are going to be out. Like it's basically all San Francisco today. But there are a lot of defensive players that I don't just want to overlook. And this is one of them where T'Vondre Sweat on that D-line, you're talking about a big body D lineman. I think he might be is he the guy that had the pick last year that was barreling down the sidelines? You have to remember this.
I remember, but I couldn't tell you if it was him.
Someone in chat will tell me. I thought it was Sweat. Was it? Come on. Maybe it wasn't. One of those guys had just an insane. It was. No, it was a fumble recovery. Dude, go look at the T'Vondre Sweat rumble, the big man rumble. It was amazing.
There's one of those in college yesterday.
But
Love those.
He clogs things up, and I think it makes a bit of a difference here. You have Jeffrey Simmons. They have a good. I think that defense for the Titans is actually good. I think they're going to make Cam Ward's job a little easier this year instead of him coming in on a dog shit team where he has to throw 50 times a game. But I do kind of like a $6,300 Kyren Williams. And if I had to guess, we got Kyren at 13%. That's really not that high of ownership at all. They're 5.5-point favorites. This may just come down to a volume game. And I don't want to ignore the fact that Sweat is absent from this game. They may have an easier time running. And Kyren Williams is just going to dominate touches out of the backfield all season long now that we know he got paid.
Yeah, we've seen that time and time again with him. It's not going to be super efficient, but they're very content to just force feed him. You don't have a healthy total here, but at the same time, you mentioned the Titans defense, and we can debate how good or bad or underrated or overrated they are. I'm very bullish on the Texans defense. Very bullish. So it's like, to me, the Rams are getting in a better situation regardless this week. And so that does help Kyren. I'm not saying you can't get to these guys and the exposures kind of dictate this. I'm still not super bullish on the Rams stack. There are just other places I want to go. And I do respect Tennessee's defense. I'm not saying it's to the caliber or maybe what we saw last week with Houston. That game was 14-9. But I'm not looking to really attack this game. So this is a quick one for me.
All right. I don't really want to stack it either. I have respect for this Titans defense. I also think, this could be an upset. I bet the Titans, by the way, at +5.5. And I know that's probably like one of the least public spots you're ever going to get, especially after last week. Ben, they went into Denver in Cam Ward's first start. And he actually, I know the numbers don't bear it out, but he wasn't even that bad. So, I respect Sean McVay. I respect this Rams D-line. Think they're a good team. I don't love this game in general, but I do think Kyren is a guy that you probably don't want to just let him get lost in the mix. That's all I'm saying. When you're still a 5.5-point favorite against an opposing team whose offense likely isn't going to be sustaining long drives and chewing up a ton of clock, right? Because Tony Pollard's no world beater. This is still a very young team with a rookie quarterback making his second ever start. The volume alone may just get you there on Kyren. That's what I'm getting at.
Yep, that's fair. I have no problem with that. He's a very neutral play for me, but meaning if I get some Kyren, I'll be very content. That's fine.
Listen, I wasn't even high on him earlier in the week, but there is a part of me, if the Sims are going to give him to me and I see his price point and the potential volume there, I think there's a path for sure. You know what I do want to look at real quick? If you don't mind, talk me through this Tennessee side while I pull it up. We've got a lot of Pollard right now. There is no Tajay Spears. This is another guy in Tony Pollard. If you want to talk about volume, and if you're like me and think that they could keep this game competitive, Pollard was out there 51 of 58 snaps. I hate that he's not involved heavily in the passing game. Maybe that changes, but I think he's a good play too at 5,900, man. Volume is king in the NFL. Yeah,
volume is king, and price point with volume is really king. Like, you're getting a guy, also worth noting, kind of said what I said about the Rams, I think applies to Tennessee. In Denver, that is not a great start to your season. At home against the Rams, I would rather have that. So to me, it can't hurt to have all that. You've got Ridley on the outside that I think is in a similar bucket. It's a team, I said this a couple of times, we only talked about a few teams. I'm not looking to get to a stack, but I'm fine with getting a piece of Tennessee. I actually have a little Titans defense with Pollard on some of my lineups because I think that they're in a fine spot. You mentioned it could be a competitive game. And Pollard, even in bad game scripts, he's getting his touches. He's not being phased out of any game to me. They just have no other options but to go to him.
So I want you to look at this for a second, right? Rushing attempts prop on Tony Pollard, Ben, 17.5. That is for a $5,900 running back on DraftKings. Yeah, Total receptions on Pollard, my guess is it's pretty low.
Probably like 1.5 or 2.5.
I was going to say 1.5. Yeah, but even so, you're saying what? We're projecting him for around 20 touches, right? Like he's close to 20 touches.
Like, I'm not disputing the over 1.5, but he can catch the ball. Like, maybe they don't go to him, but it's not like, oh, this guy is just not involved in the passing game. He might not be involved, but he could be. He has the skill set to be 4, 5, 6 targets.
As a matter of fact, it is 2.5 with the over juiced, Ben.
Well, that's even, I think that's a little much personally, not because he can't do it, just because of, we'll see if Cam Ward will give him some targets today, but that's even more enticing.
All right. Anything else in this one? For me, it's really just Kyren and Pollard.
I have more interest in Ridley than you do.
Okay, hit me. He is cheap. He's sub 5K now, isn't he?
Sub 5K. Yeah. Him and Olave are the same price, and I feel the same way about both of them. Like, they should get some chances on bad teams.
I'm on board with that for sure. Absolutely. All right, next game here. Let's keep it moving. You guys have any questions, hit us up in chat. Any super chats, let us know. Ben, you'll keep an eye on that. Manny C, welcome to the team, brother. And I appreciate you guys hanging with us. As always, if you're jumping in, tap that thumbs up. A tone this fine morning goes a long way, and we appreciate you. Chicago and Detroit. Now, Ben Johnson made some mistakes last week.
You don't say.
You talked about, people were saying that he was telling the kicker to kick that out of the end zone, and he just didn't. That's one thing. I thought the challenge was terrible. I mean, I thought that was as bad a challenge as you could make. They would have had close to a minute remaining on the clock. Instead, they had 9 seconds or something. I thought that was pretty bad. Look, it's his first game as head coach, whatever. On the other side, though, new OC, new DC for Detroit. They look terrible against the Packers. It's also possible the Packers are just very, very good. I don't have a lot I love for Chicago. I know some people like that as a contrarian play today. Truthfully, this is a Detroit spot for me. If I get a little bit of Rome, maybe some Caleb stacks, I'm not gonna X them out. It's not that I don't hate it that much, but I like Jahmyr Gibbs today quite a bit, especially given the McCaffrey ownership. I like St. Brown. I even want to get to a little bit of Jamison Williams. I can't imagine that the only 2 deep attempts that we see again for the Detroit Lions and for Jared Goff this week go to who was it last week? It was
Who, Tesla?
No, it was Khalif Raymond. Saw the only deep target on the entire game. I have a tough time believing they don't try to open things up. I want to get to a few pieces here. And one way I might play it, I may go like Gibbs Williams or Gibbs St. Brown without even having Jared Goff in the lineup.
Yeah, and Laporta's another guy. We've seen this like last year, and I know it was one game, but how many games did the Lions score like 45 points, but nobody had more than 1 touchdown? Just everybody scored. Like they were doing.
They had that game against the Tennessee Titans, where their defense turned the Titans over like 5 times in the first half inside their own 20, and they somehow had like I'm just whatever, but it was like 40 points at halftime, and Goff had like 30 passing yards.
Yeah, it was. They do that. Now you could say maybe it's a different scheme. Ben Johnson's not there because I did think at times they were tricky for the sake of being tricky last year. I don't like the Bears at all in this spot. I'm going to do what you did with the Lions. I'm not really getting to their stacks, but I want the big weapons. Gibbs would be the priority for me. I like that price. He's right next to McCaffrey. We'll talk about him at length in just a few more games. And I'm not the one thing that scares me, and again, it's just perception. Have you heard anyone in chat? I would love to hear anyone if they want to put themselves out there. Everyone, including me, thinks that Detroit bounces back in a big way here. Like they're going to be a popular teaser piece. They're a popular bet. People are on them. I have not heard a single person think that the Bears win this game or even keep it close, which, maybe they won't. But at the same time, there's a lot of questions on both sides here. I just think there's too much firepower for Detroit, and the prices are reasonable.
I'm not convinced the Bears can't keep it close because I think the misconception is probably people are just assuming the Lions had a bad game, but they're the same as they were last year when we really don't know what they're going to look like without Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, right? We really have no clue. And we don't know if Ben Johnson can fix Caleb Williams either. What I do feel pretty confident about, though, even though Jalen Johnson is back for Chicago, Kyler Gordon's out, is that there's still enough firepower for me to want to take some shots here on a team that has a 26-point implied total today, right? You look at the team total for the Lions, it's 26.5, Ben, slightly juiced to the over. I just feel like I have to get some pieces of that. They were at Lambeau Field last time out. They're in the Dome today where Goff and company have performed really well. I need to get some of that.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, these teams see each other all the time. Thanksgiving comes to mind. Of course, there's no weather. So there are situations where Chicago factors in. It's just they feel like a lost team on this slate, I guess. I can't really describe it better than that. It's just like every spot that I could get to one of their weapons, from Rome to Moore to Caleb, there are 2 or 3 or 4 other guys across the slate where I'm just like, I feel a little more comfortable there. I'm not getting enough leverage to really make that pivot.
Well, if you're the one saying that nobody's saying that the Bears could win this, does that mean that you're willing to go with some Bears stacks?
No.
Or okay, so you're still not. You're just saying that it scares you a little bit that everybody's on one side.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think, again, it's very hard to quantify this stuff. Don't overrate it. But when you do something stupid on a showdown slate or an island game, it gets magnified in everyone's mind because everyone saw it. Everyone was watching that one game. Like, I look at what the Bears did, and it was just like it's etched in everybody's mind. And I think it's really soured on them. Whereas Detroit was horrendous, and maybe Green Bay is that good. But this is a fascinating game. I do think it factors into the slate. But I'm just going to go, if this game costs me, I'm very content going down with Gibbs and St. Brown and some of the best players in the league, rather than going down with a Bears stack that I think could end absolutely horribly.
I hear you. And Caleb, man, after a good first 2 drives, he was so wildly inaccurate, wasn't he? I mean, some of those passes, a couple of those passes to Cole Kmet should have been that one should have been a 30-yard gain.
The DJ
and
Moore
he just
one
sailed it.
Was insane.
It was bad. Buckshot asked, will Ben Johnson's familiarity with Detroit's offense and playmakers make Chicago's D a good play? I don't know. Will Dan Campbell's Dan Campbell's familiarity with Ben Johnson's play calling make the Lions defense a good play? I don't know, right? Like, who knows, right?
Yeah. It's very tough to know. I will say last thing, and we had a question, and we can show this, no problem. I put St. Brown, you and me whipped up a anytime touchdown parlay over on Tails, and McNasty, we can share that parlay. I put St. Brown in it. I think that he is really poised for a game. I'm not loving the price point, so this is another way to get exposure to him if you're looking for that, because to me, there's a lot of equity that the Lions hang, 3, 4, 5 touchdowns. It could be dispersed. I'm putting him in. He is on the card for me in the betting angles. As you can see right here over on Tails, we fired up all sorts of things this morning there, Loughy. I know apparently you have some other takes, but I tweeted that out. You can get that. We'll put it on the screen in a bit, but I like St. Brown today quite a bit. And I know you're pretty bullish on him too.
I like him too. Yeah. I mean, look, we threw a 4-legger up there. Anytime touchdown, 50% boosted on FanDuel, by the way. If you guys haven't gone over there yet, right? There's a link in the description. Okay. Where is it? Where it says join, follow Ben, Eric, Greg, Loughy on Tails. Click any of them. Follow the people you want. Follow the people that you want and grab all of those free picks. All of them. For any of the sports that you can think of, they're all out there. And if there's anybody that you really love on there, some of them have premium products as well. All of my picks and Greg's are free. Ben has a premium package as well, though. Just check it out. Poke around. And if you don't have an account, you can literally create a free account all you have to do with a free account is you can just use your Gmail or your Google and sign up through Google or Apple. You don't even have to create credentials. But here's our parlay from today, Ben. Tyreek, Breece Hall, Jawan Jennings, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. The way FanDuel boosts these at 50% is they actually boost the individual legs now. Actually, no, that's not true. They're not. Yes, they are.
Well, they changed. Yeah, they show you
what it would look like. Yeah. Anyway, Jawan Jennings is basically painted plus 260 across the board on every other book. Without a boost, this guy's plus 330 on FanDuel, Ben. I felt like I just had to add him in there.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's going to be a fascinating game. They are walking wounded all over the place, but
I expect him to play.
Yeah, I do too.
I saw a video of him dunking the ball on the goalpost in practice. I think
that's usually a good sign.
If the shoulder's a problem, I think he'll be okay. But guys, check it out. All of those bets are free. You can scroll. There's a ton of bets for a ton of different sports for everybody out there. And I think you'll love it. Plus, who doesn't want to sweat the NFL? Anyway, Jason with a super chat, and we'll get on to this next game as well. What do you say? I play the $4 entry 25x boosters on DK. What sim settings are best for that? Thanks for the insight. Happy Sunday. I have a tone. The truth is the sims aren't exact. Well, actually, no, I'm not sure. If it's a 25x booster, I would just have to do the math to see, because it's not like a first place payout, Ben. But it is clearly tournament style in the sense that you're 25xing on the boost.
So what I would do without knowing the exact parameters is I would try to mirror what you can. So you know the amount of people in the tournament. So obviously when you're simming it out, get closest to that. And then I would take, this is just what I would do, Loughy, feel free to push back. I would just treat it as the cash line and make it pretty aggressive. So I know it says percentage to first, But I would say like, okay, if 20% of the tournament gets the 25x booster, I'm going to keep it in that type of range and just mess around with it. You could also use the single lineup sim for something like that as well, but I would just use the parameters you feel comfortable with. And it is kind of still a tournament setting. When I play booster, I make tournament lineups for those personally.
Yep. You kind of have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to go insane, but you have to make it a little bit different. Samir, it sounds like you listened to Run Pure Sports 8 hours ago, and that's the agenda, picking apart low-owned Detroit. But what do you think this is, like the news media where we all get talking points on who we're going to go with each day? I swear, man. And maybe that's not what he's suggesting, but people think that there's like this this sinister notion that everybody gives out the plays that they don't actually want to play themselves. And everybody just gets their talking points. I see these comments all the time. It's hilarious. I like the Run Pure guys. They're all good dudes. I've known a lot of them for a while. I'm not watching Saturday night Run Pure content when I have to do my own content on Sunday morning. I can assure you of that.
Yeah. I don't think that's what he meant, but the point still stands.
Yeah, I know.
Where are we going?
I
want to talk about this next game. This is a good game.
All right, Captain America. Yes, the industry definitely does that. Oh, Samir, I know, dude. It's not no hate, man. I'm just saying there's a lot of the industry does what? No, there is groupthink in the industry, but it's unintentional groupthink. That's the problem. Same with best ball, right? Like the hive mind mentality. You might be smart to just fade a lot of that. Sometimes watching shows, if you watched 4 different sites and all of those sites, Ben, I know we got to keep moving, but all of those sites are recommending like a specific stack or a specific group of players, you may be wise to go the opposite direction that week.
Yeah, that's the game. It is a peer-to-peer game. So that's what we're trying to do here is find the leverage.
Next up, Buffalo and the Jets.
Oh, yeah.
The Jets are 6.5 point dogs at home. How willing are you in the spot like this to run Josh Allen naked? That's like, or you. I think Josh Allen is honestly a better naked QB play. For anyone that doesn't know what that means, it means you're not attaching him to any of his own players. I think he's a better naked QB play than Lamar Jackson. Genuinely, there is more uncertainty and more ambiguity in that Bills offense between Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, all of these guys who I think any given week this could change. Last week, it's double-digit targets for Keon Coleman. This week, it could be Khalil Shakir. Next week, it could be Dalton Kincaid getting 10. And the week after that, all of these guys could get 4 or 5 and spread around. This, to me, as much as I like Keon Coleman coming into this season, I don't want to overreact to one Keon Coleman game where they needed to throw 700 times in the second half. Just throwing it out there.
So the other part that's a small distinction, they both have massive upside on the ground, but it is a little different. Josh Allen is more geared towards having 2 or 3 touchdowns on the ground. Lamar is more geared to having a 100-yard bonus. So I get it. I think what most people are feeling, you included, is the uncertainty that is dictating it. It's not that Buffalo doesn't have some good skill position players. It's just a whack-a-mole situation where there's no distributed target share from one week to the next. James Cook is there. Game script was obviously outrageous for week 1. I don't think we could take a lot of that, but you want some exposure to Josh Allen today. And how you go about that is going to be tricky. From I'm very comfortable just going Josh Allen. I'm fine with a skinny, particularly a pay down option. Like if you pair Kincaid with them, you hope you spike your touchdown and you live to fight another day.
Well, at Keon Coleman's price and Kincaid and Shakir, I like Kincaid more than any of them at 3,700 this week.
Just because of again, you don't need a huge performance then. Like if Kincaid scores, it's virtually impossible for him to be actively bad.
Right. 3,700 plus. That means you're probably not playing Harold Fannin in those lineups either. But none of these guys are high owned today. It's a Jets defense. I don't know what to make of them. They had a bad game last time out. They still should have won due to Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson, and Breece Hall. But no, they had a tough game. And last season they underwhelmed as well, whereas in 2023 they were awesome. I don't know what to make of it. I will say this much. Anytime I'm getting Josh Allen lineups, I'm not going to pull away from that. I think and I hope the Jets keep this close, though. But I like Kincaid at virtually no ownership. James Cook is an odd one, but I still think I'd rather go Allen, maybe single him with Kincaid, or just kind of one-off with no stacking on Allen with like a Kincaid or a Shakir. I don't know. But the Jets side to me is super interesting because Garrett Wilson is the clear number one in this offense. Justin Fields, we're getting 7%. I'm going to be boosting Breece Hall today, Ben. This is one stand I'll take. Does this mean I want 50% of Breece Hall? No. It does, however, mean that I want more than 2%. Ed Oliver's already ruled out for Detroit. That only benefits Breece Hall and company more. We saw outside, yes, Braylon Allen did have a touchdown at the goal line, which kind of sucks. Justin Fields can run. So the touchdown equity for Breece Hall isn't the best in the world. But overall, was he not by far the most electric and talented running back on the field last week by a mile? Like, to me, 6,100, 6,200, I need to find that. There's a couple spots this week, and we'll get to Miami, where I'm saying I just need to find out. And if that means me losing money on it, I'm okay. Breece Hall, I need to find out about Breece Hall this week.
That's fair. Yeah, he was someone I actually, not in DFS because he was irrelevant. I shorted him in betting last week, and it was dead 10 minutes into the game. He looked awesome. So we'll see. It's going to be a situation where you get burned sometimes by your own quarterback. But the Jets, the reason I like the Jets, and it's a double-edged sword, kind of like Lamar in a way, if you're playing Justin Fields, you can run him alone. But if you pair him, it's Wilson. That's it. Full stop. Like there's really nothing else to do on the outside.
Hey, great call on that last week. I think that was your best. That was your best call of the week. I think you had mentioned the Justin Fields Garrett Wilson connection. That's my highest owned stack in best ball too. That could go real bad quickly. But week one, we'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, they were cheap, and I'm just a huge Garrett Wilson truther. I'll tell everybody that wants to listen or doesn't want to listen how good that guy is.
I'm a Fields truther, so.
What?
I said I'm a Fields truther, so.
Yep. So you nailed it last week. Would you go back there this week? Would you do it? No, I don't think anyone's going to want to go back there this week after it happened last week, because they're like, well, I didn't do it last week. There's no way it happens 2 weeks in a row against two good defenses,
Oh, I'll go right back. Yeah, I'm more than content to go back because I don't know what of all the weird things that happened in week one. The thing that I truly can't explain is the Steelers Jets game. I don't I have no idea why that happened. So maybe it's an outlier, maybe it's indicative of something. But I think that Fields and Wilson are going to be a connection that you're going to have to pay the tax at times, where you're like, why did I do this? But when you don't, you're going to be getting some real upside each and every week. And I'm going to be perpetually buying until you're not telling me that it's 12,000, give or take, I'll be buying. That's just too cheap for that connection.
So you tell me, and chat, you tell me as well. Am I on an island with Breece Hall today?
I'm not on your island, so that's
what I'm asking. Right.
Yeah, I'm not there.
Okay.
I will say, not to hedge it, I love the concept. It's just not with Breece Hall. Like, if you believe that Breece Hall is back, you have to start buying now, because if he has a huge game in week 2, you missed it. Everything adjusts.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm very willing. You have to be willing to be wrong, right? Early in the season, really at all in the season, but you have to be willing to be wrong if you want to be very right. That, I know it sounds silly the way I'm putting it, but in order to win a tournament, you have to be willing to be so wrong that you just finished last. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of mantras like that in poker as well. Like, if you're, to live, you have to be willing to die with some of this stuff. Like, you have to take your shots. If you're just always reactive, you're going to be perpetually one step behind. You'll be chasing every good play.
Like, constantly bubbling and min cashing too is what you're going to see a lot of. So.
Yeah, it's just not.
Yeah, I'm willing to take those chances. Anything else from this one? You already know my favorite way to play it. I think I know yours.
No, yeah, that's it. Very just fascinated again on the betting side to see this game. I think the Jets hang in there.
So do I. All right, next up, Ben. I'm going to toss this one over to you. It's the Giants and Dallas. This game has moved a lot in favor of the Giants. Andrew Thomas is still doubtful, so there's that, which means this offensive line probably can have some struggles. Again, no Micah Parsons helps. But 4.5-point dogs here on the road. Look, there's not a lot, and Wan'Dale Robinson's questionable. Pay attention to that. There's not a lot I want to get to. I've said all week long, if Jackson Dart came out of the tunnel at halftime, if they struggle in the first 2 quarters and was the starting quarterback in the third, it would not shock me. Fans are going to be clamoring. This is a large market team. You can only, I made a bet with Greg over under 8.5 weeks that Russell Wilson starts. I took the under, and I'll take that all day long. We did a power sweep entry, which is, I think, a fun little wager there, right?
Nice. You're going to win, I think.
What?
I would be with you. I think the Giants are going to be potentially like 1-6.
If that's, yeah, I know that you mentioned their schedule on Tuesday. It's brutal. So Greg's thinking is like they don't want to run him out there with a brutal schedule, and he might be right. But if Russell Wilson's that bad, my thinking is there's no way this fan base, you can't contain a fan base like this, a rabid fan base, and that's a compliment, not an insult. As a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I get it. To just be like, no, we have a tough schedule. Let's let Russell Wilson just, anyway, I like Malik Neighbors. That's it. I don't want to go to Tracy. I'm not confident enough that this backfield is truly his right now, despite Cam Scatterbo and Devin Singletary not being able to do anything last week. To me, it's Malik Neighbors or nothing, but I'm always willing to play Neighbors.
I mean, he's an elite player, and I get it even with bad quarterback play. But if you told me I could play Neighbors or nothing, I'm closer to playing nothing. Just
really?
I really, yeah. It's not even just that. It's just I like to put it in context because it's a lot easier to get up here and say, yeah, I love Neighbors. Oh, CeeDee Lamb, love CeeDee Lamb. Jamar Chase, love him. Like, okay, well, who are you actually playing? And for me, the guys that I just mentioned, Lamb, Chase, St. Brown, A.J. Brown, there's a lot of names that I have above Neighbors, mostly because of his quarterback play. Now, the line has come down. This screams trap. Dallas is another teaser piece that I think everyone was looking to, Dallas and the Lions. I don't know, man. Giants, maybe it's because I'm a New Yorker and I've seen too much of them. I don't think they have any pulse on offense. I like their defense, but I do not like what they're doing on offense to the point that Neighbors is behind the other big receivers.
I'll go a step further for you then, so it doesn't seem like I'm riding the fence. I think Malik Neighbors could end up being a critical piece this week.
Yeah. And I mean, the ironic thing is I completely agree because he's that good.
This is a pretty bad Dallas defense, and Deron Bland is out. So, like, you have another guy in the defense that's out. You have no more Micah Parsons. I would even go as far to say that the way that they played in week 1 against the Eagles, like, you don't want to come out there and get shit on and embarrassed to open the season on primetime Thursday night football at the Link against the reigning Super Bowl champions. Like, there's also a possibility that where everyone goes, yeah, see, Dallas competed. Absolutely. We both liked Dallas in that game. There's also another world where Dallas actually showed you some of their best stuff in week 1. And if that's the case, I'm definitely getting this some Malik Neighbors this week. What are you doing with Dallas?
So Dallas, yeah, I mean, all of that is definitely true. It's just, you could play the transitive property game on both directions because I'm not bullish on Washington at all. And maybe Green Bay's that good. It doesn't matter. For Dallas, they've got weapons all over the place. I'm not going back to Javonte. He did look good. He also had perfect game situations where they were on the 1-yard line perpetually. And that's going to help any running back. Jake Ferguson is a guy. He's in the Kincaid, Fannin, couple other pay down tight ends. I'm going to get a healthy amount of him. I don't really think I'll get to Dak. And if I land on a mid-range George Pickens or CeeDee Lamb, I'm fine with that, but I'm not forcing them in. So even though I like Dallas, maybe lean to them in the game, Jake Ferguson's the only player where I'm very confident that I'm going to have a healthy exposure to. CeeDee Lamb would probably be next.
Florida ADE says this dude's an Eagles fan. Of course he's going to say this with a face palm. Say
It's
what?
true.
What? That
Homer.
You mean the Eagles fan that bet the Cowboys first half spread and the full game spread last week? That guy?
Yeah, that guy.
All right, pal. Take a walk. Take a walk.
I
Or
like
the
Eagles.
guy who is saying that against the Cowboys, who are facing another team in the Eagles division. Come on, man.
Oh, yeah, that's a conundrum.
Right, because now, what do you mean? Oh, so now I like the Giants? But I'm an Eagles fan. How can an Eagles fan like the Giants?
See, if you were a true fan, you would just sit out the slate because you couldn't click either of these teams.
Good point. Good point. But I'd tell this fine fella to go back to the drawing board. Anyway, yeah, I like some Dak +2 stacks here. I really do. Like Pickens, Prescott, Ferguson, Lamb, all of those guys, I'm okay with it. The one guy I actually like the least of is Javonte. I know he looked great against the Eagles.
Yeah.
That can happen when Jalen Carter doesn't have a single snap because he spit on Dak. And then you have to full out. Like Dak even said after the game, he's like, yeah, we changed a lot up. When that happened, like our whole scheme changed. They didn't plan on doing what they did in that game. So I'm not in love with Javonte. I think the running back position is cheap enough. I don't hate him because they're decent-sized favorites at home. Not a priority option for me. I'd rather pay 100 more for Pollard, 500 more for Kyron, 300 more for Breece Hall. That's just kind of where I'm living. I'd rather pay 100 less for Travis Etienne.
Yeah, I'm very in line with most of that, and I already gave my thoughts on that. So this is a game that I'm more interested in the betting side, and I don't even have a strong take. I just don't know what I'm going to do. I did not think this would test 4.5 or 4. I really did not.
Neither did I, man. Neither did I. I grabbed it at 6, and it's down to – or I grabbed it at 5.5. It's Cowboys, and it's down to 4.5. Probably the more surprising one I've seen this week, to be honest with you. Let's go San Francisco 49ers and New Orleans Saints. All right. Is the triple stack in play for you? No Brock Purdy, no George Kittle. He's on the IR. Still no Brandon Ayuk. Deebo Samuel's in Washington. I expect Juwan Jennings to play. We'll have that shortly. Fortunately, guys, this is a 1 o'clock game. We'll have that inactive report sooner than later. But I don't think triple stacks on the whole are necessary this week because the pricing is still really soft. If there was one spot I'd consider it, it's probably San Francisco because Jennings and Pearsall are so cheap. Mac Jones's minimum salary. Christian McCaffrey is still wildly underpriced given the fact that he has 118.5 rushing plus receiving. And it's a good matchup against the Saints. This is the one spot I'd be willing to do it because you have $6,500 remaining per player for the rest of your team.
Yeah, so this is a fascinating situation. One of the keys to this late, and our friend Goody, who, if everyone doesn't know, the best super chat etiquette in the game, always timely, talking about this same thing.
He created super chat etiquette.
He did. He did coin that. And I agree. The Saints defense did look okay. And
we named it. We named it that, but he's the one that started always doing it. So it's, you know what I mean. Anyway, go ahead.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, this is a fascinating situation because if you play that type of build with Jones +2 and probably McCaffrey's involved and probably Pearsall, that's the most realistic. You can do not whatever you want, but pretty close. And that's the allure of it. And they are still, despite all this mess, they're still a slight favorite on the road. This should be a competitive game, but the total's not in the gutter. And even if it was, look at the Steelers and Jets last week. So I get it, but this is the type of game for me. I don't want this game to define my slate because having said all that, it's still Mac Jones. And I don't think that it's a given that they're effective. I think it's a given that McCaffrey gets volume, but that's about the only thing I'm certain of on the San Francisco side. I don't think it's a given that they move the ball effectively with Mac Jones. So
I have a hot take for you.
Please.
Mac Jones is not a huge downgrade from Brock Purdy.
That's definitely a hot take, but I'm also kind of on that wavelength. So
Like,
we're going to
I
be
don't think it's that big of a hot take. Who were Mac
that-
Jones receivers in his time in New England?
Oh, so this is what I wanted to ask you, because there's two levels to this hot take. One, you think that Purdy's not as good as other people think, or Mac Jones is better, or two, you think it's a system thing. Is it?
Well, I think anybody is better in a good system. I don't care who the hell you are.
Well, some systems, though, it's like there's a plug and play nature to it. Like, it seems like to me, the genius guy in Minnesota, it seems like you go there as a quarterback, you're going to be
Kevin O'Connell, yeah,
you're going to be in some good situations.
I think that Mac Jones is better than he's been given credit for during his time in New England. Do I think he's great? No. Do I think Brock Purdy's a decent quarterback? Sure. But I'm saying I don't think the drop-off is so significant to where it's like, I can't touch this San Francisco team.
If that's the case, I assume, I don't want to speak for you, that you like Mac Jones today. Because if Purdy was 4K, he would be 40% owned.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I absolutely like this spot. I mean, I think you may have seen this New Orleans Saints last week play better than we'll see in a while. It's still a 21.5 point implied total for the 49ers. Typically, if you're stacking, Ben, a team as cheap as this 49ers team is across a triple or something, if they're that cheap, they have like a 15-point implied total. This team is priced like a team that should have a touchdown lower implied total than they do this week.
Yeah. I mean, I think this line's pretty efficient. I'm not running to bet San Francisco, but the price on Mac Jones is extremely appealing. It's an obvious pair up, and you can utilize the running back. Like, this is a situation where clearly him and McCaffrey are not reverse correlated in any way or anything like that. So I'm fine with it. I will have everything in this game. And I know that's not the most glamorous thing to say, but it's true. I'm going to have some Niners stacks with like Kamara or Olave on the other side. I'm going to have some teams that are just Kamara and the Saints defense. No doubt about it, where I just say, I don't think San Francisco can move the ball whatsoever. I like the Saints defense at 25, and I'll call it a day. So I'm hoping to just catch a piece of this game and not let it be anything that I haven't planned for, because I think the range of outcomes is gigantic here.
This is fun. We're clearly on very different sides of this one. If you're willing to go Kamara, Saints D.
Oh, yeah. I distinctly think that's a possibility. But again, to hedge my bet, I guess you could say, I'm going to have some Mac Jones. I just am, because he's so cheap.
You also have Juwan Jennings anytime touchdown in that parlay because you're betting that with me.
That's also true. But that kind of saves me a little bit because I do have some exposure to Jennings already. Maybe I'll add a little more in the betting markets, because if I do go to Mac Jones, the two obvious choices are McCaffrey and Pearsall.
If you look at our Mac Jones exposure, we have double stacks and 2% triple stacks, 11% doubles. When you guys are in the Sims, don't forget, if you favorite your lineups, right, and then go into exposure, and I don't know about you, Ben, even if I'm not playing like 150, if I run a big field, I want to favorite 150 at first just to see, because what can happen sometimes is, like, if you only have 20, you might favorite those 20 and one guy in one stack is front loaded, right? Where all of the high, but then actually there's so many guys right beneath that. So where you're like, oh man, I'm getting 80% exposure to the Bengals. When really, if you just favorited 20 more, now you're getting way less. So I always want to see what my exposures look like in that context. But yeah, Dak +3, we're getting 8% of. We're getting some Mac Jones 3-mans, a little bit of Kyler, a little bit of Burrow. And hey, did you know, Ben, there is a way to get the Sims for free?
I did know that, but I don't think everybody knows that.
How do you do it?
Well, you see the screen? You see right there, it says get DFS sim tools for free. It's extremely simple. We have, in this beautiful sports betting industry, so many options to play. And my guess, some of you play on some of these books, but I can guarantee you, if you go to this page and you scroll and you look, there are going to be sites with bonus offers out there that you don't play on. So not only are you going to be able to get some bonuses, whether it's a deposit bonus, a first match? Some of them are different. You can read through. If you sign up with one of those and then you screenshot it, your welcome email and your first settled bet, so you're getting some on the betting side, you can go to Tails because we are betting all these sites. If you email support at Stokastic with that screenshot, you get a free month of core DFS sims. And now I know what you're going to say, Loughy, and I'm going to steal your thunder.
Please.
You're seeing 10 options. If you do multiple, they stack. So this is not a one and done and you can get a free month. If you want to get NFL sims for free for the whole year, you could do that. If you sign up to 5 or 6 of these, you'll have a half a year of this. Literally, that is the ability of this. It stacks on top of each other.
Yeah. With 4 of these, you've got the entire regular season covered.
Yep.
That's it.
Don't have to worry about it. Just done. And you're getting these, again, people gloss over this all the time. I get this question a ton in my Discord. I say, don't forget you're getting the bonuses on their side too.
Yeah.
Like, are you seeing these $100 free square, $250 in fan cash, $1,500 paid back in bonus bets? Like, you should be signing up for those, in my opinion, regardless.
Regardless. Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you? And then on top of it, now you're getting all the tools for a month. So it's a great offer. If you have any questions, you always can email support at Stokastic. We'll help you out. But a lot of people are doing this because it's simple and it's the best of both worlds. With Tails, you're not going to be left out in the cold on the betting side.
And you're already free rolling, right? Like, you're already free rolling even if you don't win your bet. If you win it, great. Links in the description, guys. It's the first one. It says join any sportsbook, get Stokastic Sims free. Take a second while you're watching this show, right? Sign up on one of these. Take a minute to do it. Place a bet. Place a pre-lock. It doesn't matter what the bet is, but place a bet. The moment that settles, just shoot us the screenshot of your welcome email and your settled bet, or lineup if it's on a pick'em site and you're in a non-legal betting state. And then email us, go, yo, hey, Ron, can I get those free months or that free month of the Sims of NFL or whatever sports you want? Straight no-brainer, man. Easiest way to do it if you haven't done so yet. All right, let's keep this one moving. There's a couple games I think we're going to be able to get through pretty quickly. And by the way, Goody, thanks again for that super chat, man. Very kind to you. So let's talk about New England and Miami. I'm going to make this one quick for you, all right? Remember I said with Breece Hall, I just need to know. Like, I need to find out. I need to find out with Miami. I've said it all week long. If I get railroaded and bent over on this one, fine.
Oh, wow.
But I need to know. I'm going to Devon Achane. I'm going to Tyreek Hill. I'm going to Waddle, and I'm going to Tua Tagovailoa. I want some Dolphin stacks. If they're as bad as they were, and that closed door meeting suggests that things are as bad as they have been, and Mike McDaniel has lost the entire locker room, wouldn't surprise me. Guy's a goofball. But besides the point, if all of that stuff is true, fine. But if not, and it just turns out maybe the Colts defense is good, right? Maybe the Colts had something to prove last week as well at home. And now you get Miami in here at home, right? Where they have performed very, very well over the years and put up some monster games. You best believe that I need at least a piece of that. It's going to be partly sunny, 86 degrees here in Miami today. That's where I'm at, Ben. I got to take some stabs at this Miami team. The real reason is I'd be very upset with myself if I didn't and they go off.
One game. Again, this is a great buy low spot. I'm with you on everything you said, except I'm not going to Tua. And I get that you can because he's got the easy pairings. Sure. We just talked about Mac Jones. There's cheap quarterbacks all over the place. I'm getting a healthy amount of Dolphins in my lineups, but it's just one-offs. Starting with, Tyreek, HN in the backfield. Dolphins defense is popping up for me quite a bit, and I'm fine with that. If this is not related to the DFS slate, if the Dolphins get rolled today, I think there's basically no chance that they don't fire the coach almost imminently. I just don't see how that doesn't happen. But I also don't think they're going to get rolled today. So
they're still favorites. I get why you wouldn't want to go to Tua. Now, funny you'd say that. So we do the perfect lineup for NFL. It's the video we have here. Not a live stream, it's a video. Shout out to all you guys who came and watched that, by the way. Much appreciated the first 2 weeks. Josh and I are having a blast doing it. I think it's a great addition to all of the live stream stuff we do here. It's like a 10, 15-minute video each week. Every week you have a shot of winning a free month of Sims Max for NFL. And we just had someone win it last week. It was give us the wide receiver with the most DraftKings points under 6K. Mecca Ibuka was the guy. 5 people guessed it. Josh, spin the wheel on this week's episode. Still got time, too, to watch it before we go off. But I make 3 lineups, Ben, and I'll do all different stacks. Maybe one's a triple, maybe one's a weird stack, right? And the third one I did was actually a Kyler double, but a Devon Achane and Tyreek Hill just straight, completely unattached to that game. Secondary stack for Miami without Tua, but with Achane and Tyreek Hill. And I kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, Miami is tailor-made for that because of their quarterback. So I'm definitely in that boat. Mind Power, appreciate that super chat. Miami's going to win this game by 7. Lay the 1.5. Easy peasy. Okay, I tend to agree. So I'm with you. There's so much talent on that side, unless there's a true mutiny, and there could be. And honestly, New England's no pushover, but down there in the heat, Miami should be way better. They straight no-showed in week 1 to the point that I almost think it was probably a benefit because it was so bad. It's like, okay, we need to full erase, Men in Black, press that little thing that he had, and let's just go back to a week 1 this week.
That's why I just want to find out. If it's over, if it's bad this week, you know it's pretty much over, and then I can just take my foot off the gas. I can put this behind me, right?
Yep.
But I think both of us would be pretty disappointed if we ended up getting away from this team. And hey, guess what? The field appears to be getting a little bit more now than they were earlier in the week. Devon Achane and Tyreek Hill aren't exactly unowned. Do you have any interest in the Patriots this week? Oh, and by the way, Christian Gonzalez is out again, so that helps Miami.
Yes, he is. He's just that hamstring. Anyway, no, not really. And I'm a Drake May guy. Just can't play everyone. Simple as that. I don't want to give analysis of anything besides casualty of the slate.
All right. Jacksonville and Cincinnati. Can I hit this game just as a whole here, since Cincinnati's a 3.5-point favorite? Pretty high total. This is actually one of those games where I just want to play a little bit differently, where I might go like a Lawrence single with a double run back, right? With like a Chase Brown, who had 100% of the rushing attempts in the among running backs last week for Cincinnati, who is going to see massive volume. Pair him with Jamar Chase. Have a skinny stack on Jacksonville on the other side, or Joe Burrow, with Chase Brown. I think the Joe Burrow, quite frankly, triples make sense here. I just think there's so many ways where you can do this that if it shoots out, you could be right, and the field won't be nearly as heavy on it. So, I mean, look, I like Travis Etienne. I like Chase Brown. I like Brian Thomas. I like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow. This is my favorite overall game as far as both teams are concerned. And clearly I like Etienne and Thomas a little bit more here, and Lawrence, than our Sims do, and more than I'm getting. So I just really like both sides of this. And I'm not convinced yet that the Bengals defense has improved enough to where I shouldn't be picking on them week over week. They did cough up almost 300 passing yards to Joe Flacco last week.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great game environment. This is all the ingredients for just something insane. I think we all can see it. And it's funny. It's not to say he's going to be unowned, because he's not, but like Brian Thomas last week, it felt like you couldn't ignore it, couldn't get away. He was everywhere. It was underwhelming. Lucky he ran the ball. And this week he's still in a good spot. And it's just not, I don't think he's getting nearly the exposure and buzz out there that we've seen. ETN backfield's a little thinner. That can only help him. I'm not as keen on Lawrence as I was last week. I think he's fine, but I would rather just go Bengals onslaught, Jags. Did that go in?
Oh, I don't miss.
Yeah, what's it right next to you?
I do it every single day I'm down here. Yeah, it's just automatic. As the second one missed.
Yeah, that's that good part.
Yeah, I'm like 90%. Mm-hmm. So okay, you're more in line with the field, though, and it's fair to say.
I think that's probably fair to say, but yeah, I just think that I like the Bengals in the game. I like all permutations of Bengals from Burrow +2, +3 to I'm just going to have Chase Brown or Jamar Chase in a independent lineup, in a Jalen Hurts stack, in a Kyler stack, in whatever Mac Jones stack. It doesn't matter. So good game, not one to ignore. It's a 49-point total. The field's not going to ignore it either.
We have 11%, 12% Burrow stacks with the 1, 2s, and 3s combined. Not surprised by that at all. I would assume you aren't either. You can go into our exposure caps here, Ben, right? If anyone's ever curious of this, instead of trying to add it up, I would do this all the time with baseball, looking at stacks. If you go into stack exposure when you're setting caps, when you're setting caps on exposures, this is where it is, Ben, where if you wanted to, you could actually see your full exposure with the combined 1, 2, and 3 mans here. See what I mean? Like Dallas, 18%. That's combined exposure to all variations of the stacks for all of these. So now you can see all right, how does my exposure actually shape up with these teams kind of being the focal points instead of just saying how much of the 2-man or 3-man stacks do I have?
Yeah, incredibly useful. We had a comment from Dustin. How about Bengals D on FanDuel? Yeah, I'm fine with that. That's a different way to get exposure to this game. And it is Trevor Lawrence. We've seen that time and time again. So don't be afraid to change it up with some of that. I love full leveraging on defenses in high total games like this because crazy stuff happens. And if you're right,
Absolutely.
You kill a lot of stuff.
Yep. Look, I hate stacking Trevor Lawrence. Don't get me wrong. He never does me well. It's always bad. But I do think I think there's a possibility here that the one unknown is Liam Cohen, right? You would agree with that. The Liam Cohen, last week we saw them, beat the piss out of the Panthers. You had that weird weather delay, and that can really mess teams up a little bit coming back. We saw it in the Eagles game as well. They came back and there was 3 points after that, or no points. I think no points. It's weird. So what if Liam Cohen really does have this offense firing on all cylinders? I want to take some shots there. The same way I want to with the unknown in Breece Hall or the unknown with the Dolphins. I think the Jags is a spot I want to take some shots at as well.
Yeah. Travis Hunter remotely in play. Remotely is probably how I'd put it. He's on the outside looking in for me. I don't really see it.
All right, just give me your favorite way. I know you kind of did, but I want to wrap this game up. It's an important game. Mm-hmm. Favorite plays, favorite stack, favorite way to stack this game and play it.
Favorite way to stack the game is definitely on the Bengals side. Burrow +2. Maybe you can bring it back. Favorite plays from the game are the obvious Bengals in Chase and Brown. And not Chase Brown, but yes. And then on the other side, ETN. But Brian Thomas also has a say there, but ETN would be my favorite.
Seattle and Pittsburgh. Here's a fun one. I did not expect Pittsburgh to move to 3.5 here. We're showing it at 3, but when I checked right before the show started, it was 3.5. I didn't expect it. I thought, you'd have sharps come in on Seattle saying, look, do we really expect that from Pittsburgh again this week? Seattle coming off a really tough division loss where they should have won that game. Not only that, but Derek Harmon, Deshaun Elliott, Joey Porter Jr., all out on this Pittsburgh defense. JSN exposure is crazy, though. Yes, 6K, I get it, but they still have Slay. They still have Ramsey. They still have guys back there. I know with a guy like JSN, you're very just capable of moving him around, so I don't want to act like, he's going to be shadowed by anyone. That certainly won't be the case. But 40%, and his target share was insane last week against the Rams. Cooper Kupp, it does not seem great there, but yeah, he lined up wide 68, 32% of the time in the slot. That's a lot of JSN exposure, Ben, and I know he's cheap. I know he's going to get peppered. I'd be lying to you if I told you I wasn't a little nervous about that on a 12-game slate.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous. Price point's pretty reasonable, though.
Very reasonable price point.
Yeah, and so that
but
helps.
Everyone has a reasonable price point is what I'm getting at.
Also true. And that's where, again, at some point, there's a tipping point of there's a lot of receivers in the 6K range. A lot. and not everyone can be super popular. JSN's going to get his, and that's why I'm fine getting to him. I'm not sure I'm going to have, 50% or anything like that, but I have a healthy amount. He's just in a good spot. Everything you already illustrated, I think he gets his. I don't think it's a given. And these, look at the books. Pittsburgh, they gave up a bajillion points last week. It's still a 40-point total. So they're not too concerned that somehow this is not a Steelers team that's going to be a methodical game scripts. And I believe that as well. So let's not get crazy with touchdown equity here. But JSN on that side, Metcalf on the other side, they both grade out really well, and I get it.
You like Metcalf too, huh?
I do. I think he's in a fine spot. Obviously, people will probably, all the narratives will write themselves. But, it was one game, but I was more on the Rodgers doesn't have that ability in him at all. So clearly he may have something left.
I do have to ask you this, though, and we can move on from this game. Is this basically a Metcalf and JSN spot and nothing else, knowing that we saw Kenny Gainwell and Jaylen Warren split an uncomfortable amount of work last week, and the same thing can be said about Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. I don't love the idea of trying to thread any needle outside of – and, I know Calvin Austin had a sick game. Actually, he's had 3 deep targets there, but I don't want to try and – catch lightning in a bottle again with Calvin Austin here. And I actually have a lot of respect for the Seahawks defense too, Ben. Both of these defenses.
So do I. This might be the game from last week that we thought we were going to get. So, yeah, I have nothing else to say. I'm not playing the quarterbacks. I'm not playing the running backs.
All right, fair enough. All right, but how much do you like Metcalf and JSN? That's my question. Got to hold your feet to the fire a little bit here.
I look at the 6K range, and I would say they are my. So this is how I'll conceptualize it. They're my favorite non-stacked options because everybody else in the 6K range, I have priorities with their quarterbacks. Garrett Wilson, Zay Flowers. Those are guys, they're already tied to what I'm probably doing. These would be my favorite non-stacked options with Tyreek as well because I don't really like Tua.
Okay. I see what you're saying. That's a good way to put it. Which means you probably have a lot of one. Probably have a lot of them as one-offs.
Absolutely.
All right, let's keep it moving here. Denver and the Indianapolis Colts. And by the way, for those of you guys that joined late, just a reminder, that link in the description, you're trying to grab the Sims for free for a month or for 4 or for 3 or for 5 months. Any of those sportsbook partners that you sign up with and follow those 4 simple steps by simply clicking claim offer, you're getting in. All you have to do after signing up is deposit. It's $5 or $10 minimum. That's it. Get your deposit bonus, get your bonus bets, place a lineup on the DFS pick'em side or place a bet on the sports books. After that settles, bet it now, right? Sign up, bet it now. Hit us up, email us, support@stokastic.com. Just tell us what sports you want. It's fair to say, Ben, last year was good. We had 3 milli winners with the Stokastic tools rocking the Stokastic avatar using the Sims. We already had a 200K winner with Steve in week 1. We had a $59,000 showdown winner to kick off week 2 with the Stokastic avatar using the tools. It's been a good, year plus 1 week so far, I must say, with these Sims tools and with everything we've got with the avatar over there on Stokastic.
No doubt about it. And it's every price point. That's my favorite thing about it. It's not just like, oh, we have people who entered the Thunderdome and won. Well, that's great. We do have some of those. We have people that are saying, hey, I played 6 lineups. I played 3 lineups, and I made my whole season. That's what I'm talking about. That is just awesome to me. It's my favorite thing to say. The showdown.
Zach, I signed up waiting for my email response for you guys. Well, the bet has to settle first. So is there ping pong in Russia going on right now? That's a serious question.
Go bet the soccer. Go bet a soccer game. Go bet
maybe stuff.
Scotland.
Yeah, if you can get it to settle before, we still have to wait for you get the email back, but at the very least, I don't know how that works. Anyway, let's keep it going with the Denver Broncos and the Indianapolis Colts. Zachary, I did it on Friday. I can hit up our customer service guy, Ron, and see if he's around to take care of you, Zach. Denver at Indianapolis. I like the Colts here, Ben. Am I nuts? I like the Colts in this game.
No, I was saying this on Tuesday when we did our first look show. well, more for the DFS side, but it's just hilarious that everybody's like, my God, Daniel Jones is amazing. Let's never talk about him again. Like, maybe the Colts are just good. They looked awesome, and everyone is ripping Miami, as am I. But maybe Indy is good. They're at home here. They've got weapons. Denver's a big test. But don't count out, Tyler Warren in particular. Jonathan Taylor had an awful game, not his fault. He just had a bad run out. Yeah, there's a lot to like with Indy today.
I'm telling you now, Jonathan Taylor would have been optimal.
Yes.
If you ran if you simulated that game, Ben, 1,000 times, Jonathan Taylor's optimal and you understood the workload, right? Prior, Jonathan Taylor's optimal like 50% of the time. The guy had 8. No one did get it. No one else got on the field in the first half. Daniel Jones vultured 2 touchdowns, and then Giddens comes in and steals another one because the Dolphins were so bad. Jonathan Taylor, seriously, how many different ways could he have had like a 35 DK point game and no one would have batted an eye at it?
I mean, if you just told people the score of the game and you just said, name one, if you saw all the scores of every game and you said, name one DFS player you could have, he would be the number one answer for most people.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm okay getting with the field on him today. I know it's not the easiest matchup, but Denver's away from home. I don't mind it. I don't mind Warren. I don't love the outside receivers today, quite frankly. But if I get to some Tyler or some Jonathan Taylor, who I had a ton of last week, like that one hurt me. And if I have some Tyler Warren, I'm okay with it. Those are my guys. I'm not stacking with Daniel Jones, though, this week, personally.
Yeah, I'm with you. My biggest problem here is nothing that he did. It's the depth at running back. A lot of good running backs this week, and I still respect Denver's defense. On the other side, just to round it out, if I get a little Courtland Sutton, I'm fine, but I mentioned a lot of 6K receivers already, and that's all I have. Better real-life game than fantasy game.
I feel like you may see a little second-year regression early on from Bo Nix.
I mean, there was a world where Tennessee's coach knows the rules and a couple other things happen where the Broncos lose at home to Tennessee.
Yeah. But also Broncos defense was so good there.
They're awesome. They're awesome.
Ted McMillan. I'll go back to the well, Ben. Carolina Panthers are big dogs here. There may be a point again where they have to throw. I don't think it's an overreaction to say Carolina is a bad team, but I've told you, I'm always willing to get to Chuba Hubbard. He actually, for as bad as Bryce Young was, let's once again, round of applause for Chuba Hubbard for just once again finding ways to be pretty decent in a terrible offense. Like this guy still got us to 5 for 32 receiving with a receiving touchdown, 16 for 57 on the ground. Not exactly efficient. His long rush was 9 on the day, but every week it feels like you play Chuba. You didn't need him, but also you're never mad at the guy.
He's in the Tony Pollard bucket for me, where it's just like any game script, the volume at the price point, it's hard to screw that up, and he's a good player. A lot of games, you're like, man, I wish this offense was slightly more efficient. I wish they had slightly more touchdown equity because he rarely taps into a ceiling. But there is something to be said about that you got to feel comfortable knowing he's going to get his. I like this game a lot today. I think this is an underrated game, and I'm bullish on both sides, particularly Arizona, but I will have Hubbard in the player pool.
What are you going to do with McMillan?
Nothing really. He's fine. He serves a purpose because he's about $1,000 cheaper than most of the other receivers, but Hollywood Brown is right there, and I think we all think that Hollywood Brown is in a really good spot today.
Do you have anybody else you like here?
For Carolina?
Yeah. I like McMillan again today. I just think they are going to be really short of options.
I would agree. I don't think it's the right slate for Sanders. Any Sanders I'm not playing. Barry Sanders, Miles Sanders, Jatavian Sanders, no Sanders.
Okay. We're out on the Sanders today.
Sorry.
Now,
Barry Sanders.
Yeah, what about Arizona, though?
Yeah.
What about this Arizona team where we saw Trey Benson with a nice 50-plus yard scamper? I had a lot of Connor last week. That hurt me. He had that one shovel pass touchdown reception, but aside from that, he did not look great. I'm still willing to get back to him today. I just don't want to be overweight there in a big way because I actually am a little worried that Benson could get involved again after he looked pretty good. But I like McBride. I think Harrison at 5,800 is still too cheap. I like Kyler. They play better at home. They're 6+ point favorites at home, Ben. Carolina is just a bad football team. Yeah. Am I saying I want my entire day to be decided by Arizona? No, I don't want my day to be decided by any of these guys, but I do like this spot for all of them today against Carolina. It's a pretty bad Carolina football team.
No doubt about it. I echo everything you said. Kyler and co. This is a good Survivor spot. I think Arizona's going to be really comfortable. If you're really into Survivor, I have some takes over on Tails about maybe where to stash them as well. But Marvin Harrison, quietly, I think is just going to continue doing his thing. McBride is awesome without Bowers. I think you could argue, premier tight end on most slates. So Arizona buying. I'm not giving up on James Conner, but I like him far less this week than I did last week.
So I just ran a poll before we get out of here. You got Eric Lindquist coming up next with Chris Baggs, live before lock. Make sure to hang with those guys. Take it all the way up to kickoff. I say all the time, even if you're building lineups, right? Make sure you've got that going on in the background.
That's what I do. I do that every week. That's
what I do as well. They're coming up next. And if you guys want to leave that poll up, go for it. But check this out, right? I asked the question, favorite running back between 57 and 6,300 on DraftKings, Ben, right?
You would put in Breece Hall here.
Why? He's at 29%.
How many times you got bot farms? What are you doing over there?
Here's what I'm saying. I think Breece Hall is going to be higher owned than we think.
I hope he is.
I said this the other day on Thursday night. I said that about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and I was spot on because public sentiment drives a lot of things up, and it's hard to project something like that, right? Like it's hard to quantify public sentiment going into certain things.
I'll be very interested to see if he is more popular, if that erodes Fields in terms of connection, or people are isolating the Jets without going to Fields.
I think it's going to be that.
I tend to agree.
I think Fields will be less and Breece Hall will be more. Just my opinion.
It's not even that I don't. Oh, go ahead.
No.
Just Mr. Grapefruit said, why doesn't Ben like Hall? It's not that I don't. I mean, I love him in life. He's one of my favorite players. I just don't like the situation with the Jets right now for him. And I look at the running back slate. He's in a price point that I am not even close to starved for players. So it's just like, I don't really feel like he's kind of lost for me. If he continues to have these home run games, I'm going to have to readjust or I'm going to get punished, which is fine. But yeah, it's nothing other than I prefer Hubbard and Pollard and everyone on the poll you just ran. You did a great job with that. I prefer all three of the other guys over Hall.
Okay. That's why I did it, because I think this range is really fascinating. And if I had a fifth option, I would have put Javonte Williams in there to see where the people were at. There's a lot going on. There is a lot going on.
Iowa State hate. That's great.
All right. Let's go. Anything else for Arizona? I've told you my thoughts. I think they're a great team to play today.
They're another, and don't be laying like minus 135 on teasers, please. That's just a public service announcement. If you don't know what that means, again, that's why you want to get over, follow us, get on Tails, and I'll explain it. But Arizona's a good teaser piece if you can find normal lines.
I found that DraftKings actually has their teaser lines odds, at least when I looked earlier in the year, were better than everywhere else.
Not anymore.
No? They were way better when I checked. Way better than FanDuel. Way better than Bet365. I wonder if they moved them. I wonder if they're just so popular they know that people are just going to bet them regardless.
Yeah, people don't understand. Please don't be betting 6-point teasers with those numbers. Please. Yep.
There are still books. I'd have to look, but I'm pretty sure there's got to be a couple books out there that aren't gouging you. Goody, is Granson and Calcaterra being overlooked here? Ben, more quality super chat etiquette for Goody. He's talking about this 12th and final game on the slate before we turn this over to the live before lock crew. That is the Philadelphia Eagles laying 1.5 against the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead. Honestly, not really. Like Calcaterra can't really block well. You have Kylan Granson, sure, but they're already a pretty low passing volume team. Jalen Hurts can run. You have A.J. Brown. I'll tell you what, A.J. Brown might be the guy after last week, not getting targeted until the fourth quarter, finishing with 1 target. Thanks again for the super chat, Goody. That what if A.J. Brown, like a few years ago against the Steelers in the 3-touchdown game, 3% on, you needed him to win any contest. What if he just ends up being the guy today? What if he's the squeaky wheel early in the season, gets the grease, they give him a bunch of work. We're actually getting some of this Philly team, and I'm on board with it. I saw somebody mention they thought Philly and this game would be popular just because of the public. I don't think this game's going to be as popular as you think.
I don't know where I fall on that, to be completely honest, but I do think, I don't even think it's, and not that you were overly serious about this. It's not even just like, oh, we got to get this guy work. This is just a huge game, and A.J. Brown is really good. So, yeah. He's going to be involved. There's no doubt. I'd say this, just Goody, one more point. The thing I hate about the tight end situation, it's my classic, one of them has to be involved, then you have to pick which one. So it's like, if there was just one tight end and you're saying, okay, no Goddard, we know Calcaterra is taking it all, I could make a case. But even if one of the other tight ends steps up, and I'd say that's a pretty fair question, you don't know which one. And that makes it really, really tough. I think the craziest thing about this, I'm not sure I'm going to have any Saquon.
I don't think I will either.
I'm a little freaked out about that. I definitely like the passing. I will have Hurts +2. I'm fine with that.
Really?
And I think Hurts +2 with Hollywood on the bring back, I think is very standard. Hurts +2 with no bring back, I think is standard. Hurts +2 with Kelsey on the bring back, I think is mega mind genius, but it could end in unmitigated disaster.
All right. Devin says, I don't think AJ squeaks. Oh, he squeaks all right. He squeaks.
He squeaks.
That's a squeaky fella.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
this one last night, he's feeling good. Trust me.
He's reading books before on the sidelines. That's just an alternate method of squeaking, right?
Okay. I didn't know that. Reading?
What? Come on. Of course.
Okay.
He's reading a book that's basically, you remember the whole book reading?
Yeah. Yeah, he's reading Goodnight Moon.
Oh, that's squeaking. He was squeaking.
Sure.
Anyway,
I love AJ Brown.
Hollywood, speaking of Brown, if you're not on any of the Sanders today, how many of the Browns are we on? Are we on Hollywood Brown as well?
Chase Brown, Hollywood Brown, AJ Brown, a lot of good plays.
Billy
Hollywood
Brown.
makes Hollywood makes a ton of sense. Now, I will say this. I'm not one, and I think we've seen this over the years. The Chiefs are not a team where you're like, oh, target share is set, and he was getting peppered against the Chargers. I don't think it's a given that's what we see every week.
Not.
So don't get crazy. I mean, to me, like, you look at the screen, 45%. I'm tempering some of those expectations. Key player to my slate doesn't define my slate. No Pacheco this week. He might be, as Eric Lindquist would say, washed. It's a damn shame.
I'm going to ask you one last question here. If this is your opinion that Hollywood Brown might not just get peppered with 1,000 targets, which I 100% agree with. I'm not saying he won't, but I'm saying it's no foregone conclusion that he will, right? So I don't want 80%. Would you play anything differently with Kansas City? Would you look to get to a Juju more or a Kelsey, or would it just mean less Kansas City exposure?
More of that, I think Kelsey a little bit, but when a guy is that big of a lightning rod, if you don't do anything with him, by definition, you are making a stand, and that's okay. You don't need to play someone else. You can just do nothing and get leverage.
And Eric Traub, way to close this one out. You're right.
Robbie, don't close the stream, by the way.
I'm not. Thank you. But thank you. Yeah.
Sorry,
you're right. That's a
I'm saying that every week. I don't care.
Thank you. I'm glad. Even though, but it's good. You're right, Eric. It is a passive-aggressive little squeak there. It is. Absolutely.
Words to live by.
Anyway, how'd the poll come in at?
I don't know.
I'm going to start running these like throughout the shows going forward. Now that I am self-producer extraordinaire here on the Deeper Dive, Ben.
Go ahead. Hit some music for the people. What
about the sound effects?
Yeah, hit it.
Where are we at? Did it conclude?
What?
I'm going. So it is at 31% Breece Hall right now, 30% ETN. Let's let our boys Eric and Spags pick up on all of this fun stuff with these crazy kind of groupings within these price tiers at all these positions where, Ben, you could make an argument for all of these guys this week.
It's going to be great. That's what I love this week. I can't wait to hear what the fellas have to say. We'll probably get a little news. It's going to be a good one. I'm feeling good about this slate. I really am.
We love you all. Appreciate you hanging out. Hit that thumbs up before you go. Remember, free month, of The Sims with that link down there. And of course, you want to follow any of us, all of these free bets throughout the season over on Tails. Eric's over there. Spags is over there. I'm over there. Ben's over there. I know Spags mostly best ball, but we're going to get him firing some NFL picks. I don't know. He's in there. I don't know if he's on board.
A lot of pressure. Okay.
We'll see. Anyway, you guys are the best. Have a great day. Let's have some fun, win some money, see some Stokastic avatars up there. Eric will tell you how to get the free month of The Sims with the Stokastic avatar as well. Until next time, bye-bye.
Did you make your mic hot just to do weird mouth noises?
No, it was the little whistle thing. Is my mic hot already?
Yeah, you made your mic unmuted just to go like have a delicious.
No, listen. So the top of this coffee has this little whistle thing going.
Okay. It was just odd because I'm like, we're muted. There's music playing, but instead,
you know what? Let's just F it. We'll do it live. 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to NFL Live Before Lock, presented by Stokastic. I am Eric Lindquist. You can follow me on X at Eric Lindquist. That's convenient. Also convenient, I got my buddy Chris Spags. You can follow him on X at Chris Spags. It's week 2. We now know everything that is going to happen here in the NFL after a week 1 where everything is in a solid stone now. We know exactly where we're going to go. And that being said, I have some of the crazier, outlandish lineups that I can remember on any given slate. I'm excited for this one. Spags, how are you doing this Sunday? Are you excited as me?
I'm very excited. It's all started hearing your mouth noises here. I didn't even know we could do hot mics anymore now that the show is being produced on the fly. And I was excited to get that going here. Excited for the slate. I think there's some very obvious chalk that looks pretty good. I think there's also some potential pitfalls in the slate. And I think there's a few tasty snacks out there, two tasty stacks and snacks that I think are not getting played enough, Eric. So I'm curious to hear what your crazy thoughts are. I feel like week 2 is like, you can just go batshit with your lineups and it's all kind of defensible.
I just did my little whistle. You like these snacks? Is that what you like? It is a nice little sweatshirt I got on today. I look like, I don't know, this is way too puffy for me. Plus, it's not that cold outside yet, but it's starting to. It's beginning to feel like fall everywhere across the country, including out here in the Southwest. But hit that like button as we get going. I'm excited. You're excited. We're all excited. Plus, I'm excited to get you guys a month of The Sims. There's lots of ways that you can take advantage of it, but I know Loughy talked about it on the onset. Why wouldn't you do this? We've got, 75 minutes of this show, 77 minutes if we're being completely exact. We got a lot of time to be able to utilize the Sims tool to help us make some money in the NFL DFS streets today. And if you're looking to use the same tools, same content that I'm going to be sharing on screen with you throughout this show, you can do so just by signing up with one of our partners down at the video description box below. You can get a month of The Sims by signing up at Better or Sleeper if you're somewhere like California, Texas. We also have Fanatics, Caesars, maybe some books that you haven't signed up for. Obviously, DraftKings, FanDuel, you can see that on both sides of your screen. That's going to be more popular. I understand a lot of people might have those already, but maybe you don't have Pick 6. And Pick 6 is available in Arizona in addition to DraftKings. So those are going to be 2 separate entities where you could get 1 month for signing up for each of them. So check it out. Sign up in the video description box below. Simply follow all those little steps. It takes like 2 minutes to be able to take advantage of the Sims tool. live while we're doing this show. Alrighty, y'all. Let's get ourselves into this, shall we? Because, well, that went away. Good job. Great producing skills by me on this fine morning. Anything you want to talk about before we go position by position like we always do on the show? Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, defense. Going to have more time for each one of those today, but anything you want to bring up on the onset?
Yeah, I mean, I would say right away, it feels like a McCaffrey slate. Last week on Sunday, going in, there were some questions about how much work he would get. And frankly, he did cede almost 11 opportunities in that game to Brian Robinson. The big thing for McCaffrey was that he had 32 intended touches in that game, 11 inside the red zone, 4 inside the 10-yard line. He also had a 40% target per out run rate, just like absolutely crazy usage. So going in off the week 1 data, I think McCaffrey, it's very obvious why he's chalk, but I think he's really the play today, where if you play 0, you're going to be away from a third of the field, maybe half the field, depending on how ownership goes. And if you play him, you almost have to play all of him to kind of get above the field. So interesting approach today, but I think he is the thing that defines the slate to me.
Yeah, lots of ways that we can go about building, but Christian McCaffrey going to be a staple no matter what site you're playing, no matter how it works. When healthy, he has the best workload, the best fantasy output of any player in the league. Period. End of story. Full stop. He's involved in passing game. You will get the Brian Robinson touches here and there, but they're never the most valuable touches relative to what passing game work is on DraftKings and on FanDuel. It's just ridiculous. Ridiculous as well, because his touchdown equity is through the roof. 2 things I wanted to bring up on the onset from the news sides. We go actives and actives as well. Trent Williams is active. That is a huge one for San Francisco, because you talk about the blind side for Brock Purdy. I mean, without Trent Williams, this team has really, really struggled over the last couple of years. Having him back out there here for Mac Jones is a big deal with no Brock Purdy. Christian McCaffrey, that's definitely a big plus and something I wanted to pay attention to there. Juwan Jennings, active. We got that news last night that he was going to be good to go. That ended up being coming to fruition. Mason Taylor, active as well for all of you looking to try to play a cheap tight end here alongside some quarterbacks. The Justin Fields combo, the New York Jets rookie, going to be active. That's something that matters for me. Again, we've got some off-the-wall stacks that we're going to get to starting right now. And if you look at the exposures, the individual exposures, I'll take off the stack exposures and simply group this from most expensive to least expensive quarterback. But Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. These are 3 guys that obviously have upside. And I'm going to group these 3 together because they're kind of your combo of runners and throwers. They're all in pretty good game environments. And Burrow, obviously, coming off of last week's dud, he's coming back to life here a little bit in the Sims. But Josh Allen, no stack partner you feel great about unless, we're just going to be jamming Keon Coleman for round 2 fight today, which I don't think I can do to that extent. 5,300 on FanDuel, somewhat appealing, just maybe for touchdown equity. But Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, who do you really want to be getting to in your lineups? Because I think each one of them have kind of difficulties in finding their stack partners.
Yes, I don't know when you ran your sim, because my exposures look pretty different than yours, and I did get the most Hurts out of the group. But I would say for myself, I'm most interested in the game environment with the Jets and Buffalo. Both teams, obviously, we saw the Jets side being in a surprising shootout against Pittsburgh. I would say more surprising on the Pittsburgh side, where they fancied themselves being a Super Bowl level defense. They obviously did not show that, getting killed by Justin Fields. And the crazy part of that game as well was they got pressure in about 50% of Fields dropbacks. Still, he had good results overall, only a negative 0.03 EPA on pressure plays, which is surprisingly good. If you've kept that over the course of the season, you'd probably be better than most QBs under pressure. So that was a bit of a shocker to see. Point being, for Josh Allen, I think he's in potentially the best game environment here. We saw Aaron Rodgers, who I would say is mostly dust still, even though he put up the 4-touchdown game. I don't think it's that he's resurgent. I think it's that this Jets defense is probably not as good as they've been historically. They kind of saw some weak spots last year. Team tuned out Robert Saleh a little bit too much. Didn't rebound after he got fired either. Thought Aaron Glenn coming in might change that over, but it doesn't seem like it's the case. And Josh Allen had really nice target shares. His receivers actually all had about a 25% target per out run rate, which was high compared to last year, where nobody's really excelling in that category besides Dalton Kincaid. So you saw a passing attack that made sense. You saw, a Buffalo team that was pretty aggressive in pass rate, especially in that fourth quarter when they needed it. I think Josh Allen's the most appealing play out of the group. And I get why Jalen Hurts comes up a good amount in the sim. I got him at 15%. Lamar, I think, provides some theoretical leverage on Derrick Henry if the field plays in more than Stokastic ownership expects. But I think Josh Allen, to me, the game script should be good. I believe in this Jets offense. And I think he's a pretty appealing play that has, the ceiling to win you the slate. Not that that's a controversial take.
Yeah, just kind of looking at some of the individual stack exposures, and I cleared all of my filters because I had some stuff that I was bringing back and forth for my personal use. And again, one of the beautiful things you can upload, if you want to go to your own projections, if you want to be, aggregating or doing anything that you personally want to for your play, the Sims tool can help you do it. And I'm really just trying to build the most accurate pool that I believe the field is going to be using, and then trying to parse my lineups out of that. Now, when you're sharing this on screen, I try to keep everything as neutral as possible. So 25% to first. Just simply, I'll get rid of my contest file here up as well, because I ended up uploading all my lineups here beforehand. And we didn't have any big, gigantic news that we were sitting waiting on here today, like we might have going forward. Not to say something can't happen in 70 minutes. I mean, we've seen Tyreek Hill week 1 last year get arrested driving to the stadium. Those were not good times. I mean, we just became like the police chasing WOB group, Worldwide WOB, when he's doing his police chases in LA. That's what I felt like trying to deal with that week 1 last year. We've had injuries in pregame warmups. I think the most famous of any like pre-lock thing was 10 minutes before lock, getting news that Kyron Williams was going to be a bell cow and that they were going to have Cam Akers inactive there in LA. This was 2 years ago. Matt Gajeski and I love you. Absolutely love you, Matt. Doing great work over on the college football side for us here at Stokastic and Tails. But I felt like we had to jam the Kyron Williams side of that one, and that came to fruition. So anywho, that's neither here nor there. What is here are some of these stack partners. And Lamar, Josh Allen, I mean, this is kind of what I find to be so fascinating. We're almost all going to QB1s with them because we kind of look at their ultimate upsides having some kind of rushing equity. But Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, both of them, 3-4 touchdowns through the air, not a far-fetched idea by any means. And I just don't think you feel all that comfortable because it could be 8, 9, 10 different guys who could catch a touchdown pass on any given Sunday from them. But do you have a favorite stack partner for them? Because I know you just went on the long run here for Buffalo. Is there somebody you feel comfortable within your lineups? Because I've got one in particular, but like just to talk about the slate more from like an overhead view rather than just, hey, I'm getting to this quarterback, I'm getting to that quarterback.
Yeah, I would say for Lamar, I think if you look at the week 1 results, it's hard to argue it wouldn't be Zay Flowers. I mean, he had over a 40% target prep run rate in that game. Obviously, the box score results were huge as well. The big thing for me, and it's a part of how I look at week 1 data is, all right, where'd this come from? Like, did he get this and then the other guys around him still got around their normal rates, or did he pull from somebody meaningfully? And it seems like mostly in week 1, Zay Flowers pulled from Mark Andrews. He had an 8% target prep run rate for Andrews. Historically, we're talking about a guy 20 to 25% with pretty good red zone equity. No red zone targets last week for Mark Andrews, which might have been the game script as much as anything. Point being, Zay Flowers, I think, will be the guy that jumps out most obviously. But I still think Andrews has some utility to go to there. Rashad Bateman was a little bit banged up, but he's a guy last year we saw have big spike upside. In particular, the touchdown equity was noteworthy, where Zay Flowers fell short in that category. Bateman came up more. But I think just off of week 1 and really the guy taking a leap that we expect too was Zay Flowers being in year 3. I think he's the most obvious target here. He didn't get priced up an insane amount at 6,200 despite, a slate breaking performance, for a Sunday night football slate, but it was still slate breaking. I think Zay Flowers would be the one for Lamar, and for Josh Allen, you could probably debate it more, but I'd probably go Keon Coleman for him. Again, kind of defaulting week 1, what we saw relative to everybody else.
Yeah, I love Dalton Kincaid for a number of different reasons. I mean, tight end, I think this is probably one of the more volatile weeks we're going to run into in a while. And the Sims tool definitely echo eating some fan in tournaments, but I'm kind of a fan of trying to access the 20 type point ceilings. And if Fannin doesn't put up 15, 20, I think there's a lot of people who are going to look at this week. And obviously he was on the field a lot. We expect Cleveland, something that was going on behind the scenes here in terms of our projections today. I saw some discussion between Mr. Wagner and our CEO going back and forth about the Cleveland side of things and how much we're expecting them to throw the ball and how that's going to affect the defense here on the Ravens side that we're getting to, which Dolphins, God rest our soul, going to be probably the defense showing up the most here for me in the Sims when it's all said and done. But I do think that there's ways of just like looking at these quarterbacks and saying, all right, Mark Andrews, Dalton Kincaid, can one of those two really take off for me here? If so, I'm probably going to be in a good spot today on DraftKings. And if not, if it ends up being just nonstop Fannin, I'm probably in a lot of trouble. I'm in danger, as the GIF would say. So I'm going to move along with that, just kind of keeping that in the back of my mind. I really like bringing individual tight ends as stack partners a lot more today than I would on other slates where, like, I still think McBride on FanDuel and I think Fannin on both sites probably pretty decent to get to, but I think the field is going to be there in a gigantic way, Spags.
Yeah, I mean, Fannin, again, one thing I'd like to do is compare, data across the industry, and Fannin comes up. I mean, is unavoidable on some other data sets out there. He's pretty unavoidable as well in Stokastic's data. So you kind of go around the industry and you see that all these sites have these guys well projected, and they come up a lot in their optimizers, and they come up a lot in their sims. That does tend to tell you where a lot of people's lineups will be going from. So I get it with Fannin. Like, you talk about the data debates. He did play 55 snaps last week. Did also get 30 routes out of that, which was less than David Njoku, less than Cedric Tillman and Jerry Jeudy, but still a very good amount. The big thing for me is I think Fannin was one of those guys that did also pull from guys more than he should, with Fannin having a 30% target prop run rate compared to Njoku at 15, Jerry Jeudy at 17 and change, Tillman at 18. That might be about right for him. I think Fannin's a good play, but I think Fannin to me is like cash game lock. I think for tournaments, I think you're saying a similar thing. I'm going to be with the field on Fannin, but I don't want to go above it because I think that he got probably the highest likelihood of just underperforming. Even if he does well, like to have that tournament ceiling, there's so many tight ends. Trey McBride could go for 40 today if things really align for him. If all the touchdown regression hits at once, and I think that's the kind of thing with Fannin I'd worry about.
Yeah, and the Sims obviously are very big fans of finding cheap tight ends and being able to just say, hey, in PPR formats, we'll take 5 for 65. But there's so many times that we'll get that 1 week where it's that super spike tight end ceiling of, like, as you said, Trey McBride last year, the guy ran so poor in terms of touchdown equity that, like, it's a joke. He should have had double-digit touchdowns. I think he had, 2, 3 or something like that. It was just an absurd season for Trey McBride, but I think just finding some of these stack partners and hoping for a little bit more ceiling out of it, especially if I'm going to these skinnies of Allen, of Hurts, of Jackson. I mean, obviously Hurts has cheap tight end stack partners. And then I think it has my favorite tournament play of the entire slate on the Philly side. So we'll get into that. Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes. Let's round out the 6K range here. We had Hurts that we kind of briefly discussed amongst those three, but let's go into these other guys that we've got going. Joe Burrow burned the universe last week. Kyler Murray, functional, but not what you were looking for from New Orleans, but gets the Carolina. There's not a softer spot to land than on the road in New Orleans and then hosting Carolina for your first 2 games of the season. Yeah, it's only going to get more difficult from there. And then Patrick Mahomes, who maybe, revenge is a dish best served lukewarm, I suppose, because it's not quite cold in Arrowhead today. But I very much feel as though Patrick Mahomes has something to prove coming off of probably his worst showing in any football game ever in the Super Bowl last season. This is a Philly defense also that just lags their 2 guys back and makes it very, very difficult to take it over the top where Mahomes usually wants to go. But you have obviously no Xavier Worthy, obviously no Rashee Rice. We have Hollywood Brown as mega chalk. We have Kelsey, who doesn't seem to be coming along for the ride very often in the Sims at the moment. What are you planning to do here with this rest of the 6K range? Because once again, we have issues trying to stack up each one of them.
Yeah, I got good amounts of Mahomes and Burrow in the sim, a little bit above the field. I mean, not a crazy stand on Burrow. I got 12.7%. Fields at 11 for Mahomes. I got 8.7%. The Fields at 7. I'm cool with those guys. I think with Burrow, the big thing to me, and it was something we talked about last week a little bit, is it was just too natural how the stacks were aligning for the Bengals. People kind of chasing the results from last year a little bit too much. I think it's also spun a little bit too far the other way, that people think the Bengals secondary and the defense is like the worst in football. In reality, like last week, they were pretty much dead average. Towards the end of last year in particular, they tightened up enough that they ended up being, over the course of an entire season, pretty much dead average. And I think that's sort of where I run into issues with the Bengals. And like, you get fed him a lot. I get Jamar Chase. Like, he's not going to be as bad as he was last week. T. Higgins should have more of a ceiling. The entire passing offense should work better. And really this Jacksonville game script, like, I think it's harder to ignore because it is a team I believe in. The coaching there, Liam Cohen coming in, led such great growth last year for Tampa Bay's offense. And now we kind of saw how it looked, at least in 1 week without him. Same thing for Jacksonville, immediate bump up and things look a lot better. Trevor Lawrence's underlying numbers, maybe not so impressive, but it does seem like a good shootout environment. I would rather, if I'm handling lineups, play guys besides Joe Burrow, to be honest, just because I think the ownership's going to be a little bit too high there, and people are just really locked into the concept of every week Cincinnati's a must play. And the ownership is there more than enough, but it's hard to argue Burrow as a play. Like we know he did last year. He's got the most natural stack partners to spike. And then if they do spike, he's going to probably have a good shot in winning you a Millie Maker or winning you a play action kind of tournament. I just like the ownership's kind of aggressive on Burrow, and you could play a million guys, I think in particular, at QB on the slate.
There's one guy that isn't showing up on your screen right now because these are the top 150 lineups that I'm favoriting. Once again, when you're looking at the Sims tool and you're getting, utilized and you're getting used to using the functionality of it here on a day in, day out basis, you have the ROI boost if there's somebody that you want to get to a little bit more. And maybe at the beginning, you did see on my screen the guy that I had to boost to get to a little bit more of. We also have exposure caps where, say, if you want to play just 50% Christian McCaffrey, because if you run it unencumbered, 62 and change that you're looking at for the CMC side of things, which I find to be appropriate for today, especially knowing what that workload was last week, 22 touches. I have far less concerns about the calf than what I did going into that week one, where, it was weird for them to play possum week one right off the bat, but hey, do anything you want to within the context of the rules. But we don't have any Bo Nix showing up whatsoever. And this is kind of like a forgot about Dre situation for me. Bo Nix at the tail end of last year, Spags, had a ridiculous ceiling. He is sitting there at 6,100. And last week, maybe Tennessee's defense is a little bit more functional, but it felt like one of those games that you go out to play to not lose it against Tennessee for Bo Nix, then you go out to go and try to win it. I think he's got a very clear number one in Cortland Sutton I want to tie him up with. I don't love that Marvin Mims wasn't on the field a lot because a lot of Bo Nix's ceiling was accessed by the existence of Marvin Mims at the end of last season. He was basically on the outside looking in, Troy Franklin playing a bunch over him in week one. But Spags, this is turf in Indy against a defense that I'm not sure is like top 10 in football for sure. If you want to argue that they're functional and pretty decent, sure, they got some upgrades at the cornerback position in the offseason, which they badly needed. Some from my Minnesota Vikings, didn't love that. But Spags, I think Bo Nix is the best tournament quarterback play on the slate. What say you?
Look, the one thing I will say in terms of just sim game theory and stuff like that, I don't think I got any Bo Nix at all in the 150 set that I got here. So I think that alone, sometimes when the guy doesn't come up in the sim, that could be a death knell. But for a guy like Bo Nix, it's pretty projectable after having a year of him as a starter. I see where you're going with that, and I think that does make him appealing. Sutton, same thing. Going to be your obvious lead target there, even though, like Eric mentioned, Troy Franklin being in the mix more, I think was not great for Mims. Mims also just didn't get fed at the rate he did last year. He was getting schemed a lot of low A-dot targets. Those seem to be gone a little bit for Mims, so that's concerning. Evan Ingram not playing a full allotment of routes because Adam Troutman's out there a good amount as well, and Ingram got hurt last week, even though he'll be active. So I think it does make it more natural to get to the Knicks, Cortland Sutton stack. For me, it wasn't a priority. The total's kind of spooky at 43 implied points between these two teams. Indianapolis did flash pretty well in defense, but against the Miami team that we think might be really bad and going the wrong way. Denver just didn't come up to play or didn't show up to play versus Tennessee team that I don't think is a good defense, but looked like it for 1 week. So I'm with you on the concept of Bo Nix. I'm more into the run games here. I think when I see the low total and two defenses in particular on Denver's side, I think will be pretty good. Like Jonathan Taylor, nobody's going to play him this week. I think in particular an underdog, FanDuel, I think he's more appealing where you have the touchdown equity there. But I see what you're saying with Bo Nix, not the play for me, but I think that's buying while there's blood in the streets. Like Denver's not going to be as bad as they were last year, probably ever again this season, I would think.
Yeah. And part of it is he's got legs as well. Like he can run. He's definitely somebody who has that kind of equity that's involved with it too. And I think Indy's offense is much better than people anticipated coming in. We talked a little bit about it last week. I had more downs than I probably should have. I had a lot of Michael Pittman, which is helpful, but Daniel Jones was the Sims du jour guy. What a shout out by the Sims. Again, this is why it's such a great tool, because I don't think I would have landed on Daniel Jones as my highest owned quarterback last week if that's not the case. Did I get the other pieces I needed to come along for the ride? No, I did not. But overall, if I had less downs, I think it would have been an awesome week for a lot of those Daniel Jones stacks. Hey, you got to take some shots and had a lot of doubles. Probably looking in hindsight, all right, being more on the single side of things, which again, you can always look at in the stack exposures where you have the QB1s. We just grouped it this way where I talked about Lamar and the expensive guys. We get into the Justin Fields conversation as well. Do you have any Justin Fields love for this week coming off of last week? Because now we get into this 5K range, and Dak Prescott, I think everybody's playing him. Sims surely are. Stafford looking at some doubles there, maybe with the Puka / can we get Devontae Adams and Puka to come along and do their type of thing here? I think so. Kyron Williams, interesting enough at the running back position. And then, of course, we got Tua at 5,300 coming off of failure. Aaron Rodgers balled out of the middle of nowhere. Trevor Lawrence was a complete fail. I think there's a lot of ways we can go in the 5K range. Do you have some favorites, Spags?
Yeah, out of all those guys you listed, Fields is my number one guy. Like, when I went on my way to hand build stuff today, which, for the most part, I'm putting in kind of a batch of lineups for the 20 maxes and stuff like that, trying to hand build for the higher dollar stuff, Millie Maker lineups, things like that.
Yep.
Fields was my first choice. Like, I think Fields, to me, what stands out the most, and the box score was obviously great. The rushing stuff, also great. 12 rushes in that game, 4 of which were in the red zone. The accuracy numbers, 82% catchable ball rate. If he kept that up over the course of a season, he'd be towards the upper echelon of QBs. I think he probably lands high 70s, and that'll be totally fine for him as well. But he saw pressure on 48% of dropbacks. So Pittsburgh, despite the flaws they put up in results there, they got to Fields. He just didn't get affected by it. He had a negative 0.03 EPA per dropback, which is actually pretty good, even though it's a negative number. To see Fields handle that well, turn some of those plays, keep his eyes downfield when things fell apart. This is a team for Buffalo that last week also had a pretty high pressure rate, blitzed 41% of the time, saw pressure against Lamar 23% of the time. To know that Fields can handle that, and also that Buffalo's defense really wasn't that good last year. They were effectively incredibly bad versus Baltimore. I think this is a spot, again, where the Jets total, I get why it's low. Vegas had them as being a bottom 5 offense. But we saw last week what they can do. I'm willing to say that I think they do it again. And if I'm wrong, that's why Vegas builds casinos.
Yeah, they very much do. But I'm going to bring up your best ball expertise, because I just want to think about this from the game theory DFS version, how I began playing DFS. And obviously, I've had a lot of things change with how good the Sims tool is, where I don't have to try to just be cute all the time. But let's go back a week. Let's pretend week 1 didn't happen. And I told you that we have Bo Nix going into Indy, and we have Justin Fields at home, in a pretty, I would say, difficult-ish type spot against Buffalo. Like, I think we all think Buffalo is a Super Bowl contender. So I'm just going to, even though we didn't see their defense have their A game, I think Baltimore probably has the most talented roster top to bottom in football. But like, if we just looked at 1 for 1, why wouldn't I be playing Bo Nix more in this spot?
I think that's a fair point. Look at the Denver does have a higher team total as well than the Jets. I think what it comes down to for me is how consolidated the offense is. And two, even though Bo Nix, I agree, I would say is more of a rushing QB than not, he does rush more in adverse conditions. Like when he was really bad last year was when he ran a lot. As he got better, as the offense started to flow more conventionally, the rushing attempts came down a lot. For Fields, we know the rushing is the big thing there. And this has been a guy that every time that he has started for an entire season, he's been a top 10 fantasy QB. I just think it's baffling to me that Fields is being 4% played overall. The fact that he's also stacks don't even come up in the sim. And maybe that's because they're not good. And I'm just wrong about this. But I think it's a projection thing. I think it's just because the projection doesn't fully align yet. We need more of a sample size from this season. I like Fields with Garrett Wilson a lot. I think Fields with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall is playable. I think your Bo Nix is my Justin Fields. I'm going to die on the hill of Fields. You're going to die on the hill of Bo Nix. And I think that's what week 2 offers you those opportunities to do, hopefully.
Yeah, it's just the game theory in me, and just kind of thinking through scenarios where Justin Fields gets steamed up because of a good week 1 and Bo Nix does not because of a poor week 1. That's really what this comes down to. And I think it's going to be very fragile when we're talking like a 2-3% difference in quarterback projection. Like, that's negligible relative to what the ownership could be for their stack partners. Garrett Wilson plus Justin Fields, I think, is going to be a very popular stack combination, whereas Sutton, Bo Nix, I really don't see that getting steamed up in any way, shape, or form. But
Sutton projects for more ownership, though. No,
it was very, very nominal. I'm going to be playing the Bo Nix side of things a little bit more over on FanDuel for what it's worth. So on the DK side of things, I think it's hard to imagine Cortland Sutton. Like, you put his receptions next to some other guys. Yeah, I would probably agree where Garrett Wilson would probably be the better as an individual target of the two over on DK. But go ahead. Is it like
ownership is
0.1%?
updated, and it's very funny. On DraftKings, Sutton 7.8%, Garrett Wilson 7.7%. So we're basically arguing the exact same plays, just different versions of it, and with very similar team totals as well.
My version's better. No, I'm just kidding.
Do we want to do an on-stream bet here that I'll take Fields plus Wilson over versus Bo Nix and Sutton?
I mean, based on projection, I'm a dog, but based on ownership, I can tell you one thing: I'm going to like my side of it. So yeah, we'll do a gentleman's bet. How about this? I'm trying to think of how to bring Puppet Lindquist into this in a way that I'm actually okay with. Like, you have to go on and like be polite with Puppet Lindquist, and then if you win, you get to do like pulling my pants down and fart jokes.
Well, I get to do that anyway, though. Like, you do it with the actual you, like as a voodoo doll. How about you have to do whatever the puppet?
That's actually a great bet. All right, so hang on. I might have to come up with a puppet Spags or something. That might be what it is. I'm gonna come. So if I win, I get to come up with a puppet Spags, and I get to do that bit at the end of week 3. If you win, you get to voodoo doll Puppet Lindquist to start the show for 5 minutes of you controlling me.
Okay, it's a weird bet, but sure, it's a bet. I could take it. I like our dignity-based bets. So the bet officially then: Bo Nix plus Cortland Sutton fantasy points versus Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson fantasy points, right?
Correct. Yeah, DraftKings. Okay. Well, we'll do a DraftKings just to make it easy on the people. I don't want anybody having to go over to the FanDuels and trying to figure that one out, even though I think that's probably better for the Bo Nix side of things. Anywho, that's neither here nor there. Are the rest of these quarterbacks that we've got to? What a weird tangent to go on. I knew we were going to, between you and me doing shows together, we knew we were going to go down some rabbit holes. I didn't know we were going to go into like truly, what is it? True detective type shit. Like,
it's so funny too, because it's like two stacks that nobody's talking about or gives a shit about.
Nope, not at all. There's like 2% of people's lineups. They're like, talk about Drake May. All right, fine. We'll talk about Drake May. We'll talk about on the other side of that game, Daniel Jones as well, who I think looked more functional there. I said this coming into this year. Kevin O'Connell is a quarterback guru. He made Josh Dobbs somewhat functional for like a week or two, which is like nicer than you could say, because other than Josh Dobbs' time at Tennessee, there was not really a time where Dobbs popped as an NFL quarterback until he played like 1 or 2 weeks under Kevin O'Connell. I think Daniel Jones just being in the room around Kevin O'Connell and the Minnesota Vikings for a couple of weeks took some pressure off of him, probably helped him just think about ball, focus on ball, do what you're supposed to do, get back to your reads, get back to basics. And I thought he looked the best version of Daniel Jones we had seen since he beat the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever it would have been, with a cast of horrible wide receivers for what it's worth. But I do think that this is still a spot where we want to have a little bit of an investment in there. Plus, no Dre Greenlaw out there for Denver today. I think that Jonathan Taylor on the other side, we'll get into that. But how are you feeling about the rest of these 5K quarterbacks? Because we have so many. Drake May, obviously the guy going up against Miami, and we brought out how horrendous their secondary was. It did not let us down last week.
Yeah, Daniel Jones, I'll give you the full pat on the back for what you're saying about him just looking like the best version of himself, because I think the data does back it out for 1 week. He had a 93% catchable ball rate. That's one of the best marks for football, even in the limited sample size. He also had a flat 2 EPA, so added 2 points on his 1 deep target just by taking that shot out there. He ran 7 times, 5 of which were in the red zone. That's a fantastic roll if you were to somehow keep that up. Big thing that jumps out too is that the Colts ran a ton of motion. They ran 48 motion plays, and generally motion's regarded. If you see a team running a lot of motion, they tend to have better success because motion leads to higher effectiveness, higher success plays, overall success rates, overall a ton of play action as well. So like basically Steichen called them into a game where probably what he wanted to do with Anthony Richardson, and he couldn't pull it off. A lot of complicated stuff, a lot of movement, a lot of things to deceive. The issue is that they're going against Denver, and I think that's the part where I would have the most concern about. If they were playing like a good, a defense who wanted to attack, if they're playing a Jacksonville or Carolina, I'd be like, yeah, let's load up on Daniel Jones again. Because they're playing Denver, I'm a little bit spooked by it, but I agree with your take here. And I think just the week 1 to week 2 trends, are you going to be early on something? Are you going to believe what you saw in week 1? If you want to believe in Daniel Jones this week, I think he made an incredible case for it based on how he played last week.
Yeah, and having Tyler Warren there, Tyler Warren is so special. I think that kid he was the number 1 PFF graded tight end in week 1, which I think went a little under the radar for people. Like, there's good parts of PFF. There's parts that I wish were better about PFF, but there's no doubt that you have somebody go out and who can block and catch a football the way that Tyler Warren can at the tight end position. It's going to be a good situation going forward for Indy, because we know in the past how many times they just want to roll out 12 and let it go. I don't think they even have to necessarily do that as much anymore this season. And obviously I wish they did it less last week because Josh Downs was on the outside looking in, but such is life. Let's get into the last of the nitty gritty. We got Russell Wilson. We got Spencer Rattler, and then we have a 4K quarterback that's actually in play for this week in Mac Jones. I probably would have had 0 if Trent Williams was out. I think there's going to be a pretty good situation for Mac Jones to walk into, and I'm not going to go crazy where Loughy's saying that, my Iowa State brethren, Brock Purdy, is the same thing as Mac Jones. Stop it. Get help. One got paid $50 million, one did not. But I do think Mac Jones is very serviceable in this offense with CMC, with Juwan Jennings, whatever they can get out of him, and a Ricky Pearsall, who I thought played much better than I expected him to in week 1. I'm not the biggest Ricky Pearsall guy. I might have to become a Ricky Pearsall guy. He would go into the Philadelphia Eagles side as an exciting white, if you will. I have no clue how Ricky Pearsall gets as open as he does, because he doesn't look like he looks like he's running in mud sometimes, and then he's just wide open by himself. I thought that was pretty impressive. Any cheapies on the quarterback side that you're pretty excited about to try to roll out in tournaments? Because outside of Mac Jones, that's about all I'm getting.
Yeah, Mac Jones got more than 2x the field there, about 7%, Fields at 2.5%. And, Stokastic users, I think, going to get Mac Jones a good amount as well, based on the fact that he is, top value on the slate. I think Mac Jones, the league average QB, and frankly, that's might be good enough to be viable in the Niners offense. Brock Purdy, I believe, is appreciably better. He's been generally one of the most efficient QBs in football, fairly accurate. But Mac Jones was competent enough. Like, I think people thought he was good at the end of last year with Jacksonville, but it was mostly just kind of playground ball, him feeding Brian Thomas when there were no other targets to throw the ball to, and it worked out pretty well. But I think for 4K, you just don't really get league average, competent enough QBs with good coaching in an offense where we do think there's upside for Pearsall. You have easy checkdowns for McCaffrey, at least theoretically. Juwan Jennings was great last year, didn't look so fantastic in week 1, then got hurt, but hopefully he can add some value today. I like Mac Jones. I will say, though, and it was on my Splash Play pod channel this morning, I did my final takes video at 9 a.m. on Sundays. Please watch it. The 5 people came into the chat like, do you think I should maybe stack up some more Niners? And it's like, I think people think that's clever and cute, and it's not going to be clever and cute. Like, it's going to come up well simmed. People will play it. It doesn't mean it's not a sharp play, but it's like, I think Mac Jones is not sneaking up on anybody this week based on the projections, but I do think it's viable to take that shot, some amount, and frankly, being above the field on it, if he is going to be 2.5% owned. Like Daniel Jones, the sim was all over him, and we were all like, Daniel Jones. The sim is all over Mac Jones a good amount as well, and I think it's worth playing at least into the field's amount of ownership there.
It definitely helped me last week that I was playing like 4 different sites and didn't have time to be able to change everything out from the Daniel Jones I had. So in some ways, a fortunate accident of sorts, but either way, Wayne Ingersoll, welcome to the YouTube community. Everybody get that badge. Would love to see it. Also, we've got the Hall of Fame rocking for the people over here. If you finish in the top 3 of any tournament over 5,000, tons of great stuff here at the Stokastic Hall of Fame for you guys to be checking out here. I'll talk about that here in a second, but we've got 2 other super chats to get to. Orion, $1.99 for a FanDuel GPP. We got Brees, Tyler Warren, or Kamara Njoku. So kind of talked about a little bit of what's going on with the Cleveland tight end situation. Njoku was still on the field quite a bit. I just think there's going to be a lot of guys. If Cedric Tillman continues to ascend, we saw Jerry Jeudy last year really ball out. It's a lot of targets to go around for guys, especially in an offense that's going to be behind a lot, going to have to throw a lot. But I really got to side on the Brees Tyler Warren side of that one.
Yeah, honestly, I don't love either side on half-point PPR. I just think the touchdown equity is not necessarily there. And Kamara, I think, is more of a concern on full-point PPR because he was not getting targeted at all, and that could be a Kellen Moore change. But I would favor, based on the players involved and the likelihood of yardage, I think Brees and Tyler Warren would be my pick.
One more super chat. Nathan Perkins, $2. Thank you so much to everybody for doing that and supporting the channel. Best 2 or 3 for single entry. What is that in reference to? Best 2 or 3 like plays period? Because I got a guy at wide receiver that I have way more of the field. So we can say that one if we really want to. But let's get your 2 favorite single entry plays. Are you playing single entry today?
I don't think I have any single entry in, but I would think, I mean, depends how you would want to play it, but I'd say if we're trying to say core plays, then you're building unique stuff around it. I think McCaffrey would be one. I would probably put Hollywood Brown in, though you can make the case to fade him for single entry. I just think the workload's going to be good enough. Those would probably be it for me. I also like Derrick Henry more than the field does. I might be willing to do that in single entry if you're willing to pay up at running back.
I just want to double check to make sure that I've got this in my FanDuel single entry here too. Yeah, I do. Okay. My disgusting duo of the day. Tyquan Thornton, Devonta Smith.
Okay.
Hi. We'll get into the Devonta Smith. I'm far more on the Devonta Smith side of things, but I was looking at the run backs and looking at some of my running back exposures with CMC. He's dynamite, all that goodness. Finding some ways to get different on this slate. Not a terrible thing, but that's my little mini correlated stack that I've got in the middle of it. Single entry does not have Mahomes or Hurts in it, so there is that. But Devonta Smith plus Tyquan Thornton, please go ballistic, the two of you. AJ Brown, did you see a separation score in week 1?
I did not. I assume it was not good. Did you see the quote that he put out? I don't know if it was a thing that only went to local media, but he had said something to the effect of like, they zoned me to death. Like, how was I supposed to get open? And it's like, and that's the thing with AJ Brown is like, he is, if you follow the defense week to week, he's a man defense destroyer. You probably even know that if you don't follow the defense week to week, Cowboys played 99% in zone defense. They didn't play anything that was pure man at all. So they played directly into AJ Brown's weaknesses, but he is a large hulking man, one of the best, freak athletes plus strength combos in football. A zone should not be limiting him, but I do think the fact the Chiefs played at about half their defensive snaps, probably a good sign for AJ Brown this week.
Yeah, Tyquan Thornton, 72% of snaps. And anytime somebody can walk into the MVS role and just run wind sprints, I've got to roster them in the name of one MVS, who I thought was going to be in play for us this week. I thought we were going to talk Marquez Valdez-Scantling, which would have felt like the last 3 years of my life. It's just an absolute disaster overall. But I want to try to target Adoree Jackson in any way, shape, or form that I humanly possibly can. And he must pay for his sins, I think. He must just run that way. Take him that way. Let's run. I'm just looking for one bomb, if we're being honest. It's my Deshaun Jackson play of the week. All right, to the running back position we go. And this is probably the scariest thing that I've seen in the Sims tool ever, in the history of the Sims tool. It is this. We know how many tournaments Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley not just won for people last year, but were like necessary as chalk last year. Both of these are right around 10%, Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. Both of them had, I would call, very serviceable week 1s, Spags. Sub 1% in our top 150. I'm probably going to get a tiny bit more once we get my final run here going. But how do you feel about that fade at the top of running back?
Yeah, I'm not fading Derrick Henry this week. I boosted him. I got him more everywhere. The Stokastic 150 set I ran, though, he was coming in very lightly. Only 3%. I actually got no shares of Saquon in that 150 set I ran right before the stream started. So I did not try to boost the Saquon side of things. I do think he's a valid play. I certainly get that. For Derrick Henry, though, you're talking about a game where Baltimore's a 12-point favorite, 28.5 implied points. Derrick Henry has been a guy that, like last year, I was ready to go, I don't want to play the high volume back, whatever. He got big money, whatever. He was so great last year. He had over 20% avoided tackle rate while getting about 20 intended touches a game. He was better in the pass game than people realized. That we immediately see it in week 1 where he was, I would say, the best player on the field for a large portion of that game, at least till the fourth quarter when Josh Allen took over. And now you have a game script where they should be up. Cleveland will pass the ball a lot, but if that doesn't work out, they're going to have a lot of opportunities to run. Maybe Baltimore is not as good this year and Derrick Henry doesn't have the massive advantage, but I think he easily gets 1 touchdown this week. The betting market support that. I think he gets 2+, I think is a good shot. I think he's got a good shot at 100 rushing yards in this game. Derrick Henry being at 2.5% exposure in the Sims spooks me. Field at 10% though. Would it shock you, Eric, if Derrick Henry were more like 15-20? Because I do think people are going to think more similarly than how I think the ownership is giving. Feels like the ownership just doesn't respect him at that price point.
I think the ownership is very warranted. And anything to the contrary would be kind of a crazy stance, in my opinion. He is 7,500. He's 500 cheaper than Barkley, projected for 4 fantasy points more. And I do think Saquon Barkley, I mean, one of my favorite bets of the entire week, which you can check out over at Tails. You go to tails.bet/Lindy. You can check out all the good packages. Check out my package, Spags. That would be lovely. Always what you want to tell the people on a Sunday morning. Go to church, be well, do all the good things. But check out my package while you're at it. Tails.bet/Lindy. And my favorite bet, I think, that I've got coming up for the afternoon, Wave, and then already threw in for Pick'em everywhere. 2.5 receptions for Saquon Barkley. Will Shipley's gone. And Tank Bigsby, that's never been the thing. If we see him active here on the squad, that's Saquon Barkley's just walking into, I think, what would have been some of those third down roles, like some of those passing games. I mean, Will Shipley looked good for like the series and a half that we really got to see him in before getting dinged up. I think Saquon probably going to be a little bit more involved in the passing game, but that's now started to just get juiced everywhere here. But still, it's a far cry from Christian McCaffrey's reception volume and line that we've got. As for Derrick Henry, you're going by way of touchdown variance, but you got to think that he's probably the most touchdown variance immune human being on planet Earth. First off, he plays at the running back position. Second off, he's Derrick Henry with the Baltimore Ravens offense. Seems like a good thing for touchdowns, but at 8,200, especially on DraftKings, I think there's ways we can get away with next to none of him.
Yeah, I don't want to fade Derrick Henry. I get the game theory logic. I get how the rosters work, and like McCaffrey and Chase Brown, I think project better. Devon Achane, I'm not as crazy about, but he projects fairly well. I get where the ownership is going. I just think at a certain point we might look at Derrick Henry putting up 35 today and go, oh yeah, probably should have played that guy a little bit. And I'm playing him. I also, people in best ball wouldn't have Derrick Henry. I took him. I learned my lesson last year. Derrick Henry is one of the best running backs I've ever seen play football last year.
Yeah, for me, I will play a lot of Derrick Henry on FanDuel. Just give me all the touchdowns, give me all the scoring there. I'll try to get away with it a little bit on DraftKings, where that's not part of his MO. Obviously, 150 and 2 tutties probably is, but that's going to really look good on FanDuel, especially when you look at some of the pricing there, where he's like within 100 or 200 of McCaffrey, 100 of Saquon. Everything's pretty bunched at the top of running back. It's still very much CMC there, but Derrick Henry, I like a lot more for the FanDuel folks. Let's go down the board here, because now we start to open up some tournament plays below Christian McCaffrey, who, we're both in on McCaffrey. Like, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I mean, I said in the top of the video, but really the numbers he put up last week in terms of usage, like there's been a couple of backs in the last few years that have put up 30 touches in a game. What comes to mind, Kamara, Saquon, and then that's about it. For him to lead the season when there were questions about his health, to get 32 and 10 touches, to have 11 of those, a third of those be in the red zone, you just don't see that. Maybe it speaks to how ineffective they were that he had 11 red zone touches, but 11 red zone touches is crazy. 4 inside the 10-yard line is crazy. A 40% target rate is crazy. To me, all the stuff that we saw from McCaffrey last week in terms of usage was too good, and the Saints aren't going to blow him off the field. So McCaffrey, I got 61% of the sim. If you gave me 75, I wouldn't be mad at it. But certainly at a certain point, you can do some stacks, do some other things to try to get different looks. But the field will play McCaffrey a lot, and they should, because he's the best play of the week relative to price and volume and opportunity and all that.
How do we feel about Kyren Williams now in Tennessee, where I really like Chase Brown, but so does the field. And this is probably the biggest push and pull I have of this entire slate. I would be remiss not to play a ton of Chase Brown if he is 20% owned on DraftKings. And yeah, last week we saw some public money come in, and we saw ownership almost perfect here at Stokastic. We saw some amazing ownership projections leading into it. So I'm not going to sit here and say there's this, there's that. Chase Brown was still serviceable-ish last week. Nothing on the Bengals side was really what you wanted to have, but you want to have 100% of the running back opportunities for the guys you roster, and 6,800 for him at 20%. Kyren Williams sitting there at 13 and change. His ownership has come up for what it's worth. I'm still getting more than the field. And Devon Achane, who has always been a controversial figure. I was way out on him, and then I was way in on him once you got Tua back. I mean, there's just so much stuff going on with each one of these, but there's no doubt Jalen Wright being out and inactive for this. You're going to have Ollie Gordon backing him up yet again. These are 3 running backs who they're not going to have the projection of that of a CMC, a Derrick Henry, a Saquon, but they get all of the opportunities at a cheap price tag. Spags, Brown, Williams, Achane, yay, nay? How do we handle these gentlemen?
So I'm the least into Achane. Did get him in the sim, got him 25%, so it's above the field there. Got Chase Brown at 35, Fields at 21, so above there. Kyron, I got at 21%, Fields at 14. I'm good with that. I really substantially do like Chase Brown and Kyron Williams more than Devon Achane. I just think Miami, to me, they like to have a players only meeting in week 2, heading into week 2 is a pretty bad sign. Maybe that, is them recognizing, hey, we got to get this right. But my feeling based off of last year, based off the offseason, based on what we heard in the preseason, I just don't think this team is going to come together this year. I think that they're a little bit of a cursed vibe. I get the projection sets and why they would say go back to Miami, because you look at the longer term sample for guys like Achane in particular, but also Tyreek and Waddle, like it should be better. But sometimes in the NFL, things just happen like this where a team falls apart and the signal is there, but the data doesn't fully catch up on it. So that's how I feel about Achane. I think he obviously can break a slate any given day, but if the field's going to play him at 20% and I could play other guys who I feel better about, I'm going to do that. So Chase Brown, dominant red zone role, 5 opportunities last game. Snap count was down a little bit because of having Samaje Perine in, but they tried to feed him a touch about 65% of the time he was on the field. That's crazy work still. So Chase Brown, good to go for me. In a game as well, we expect to shoot out. And if for Kyron Williams, he's had a dominant red zone role and got big money this offseason relative to what you'd expect for him because the team trusts him in the red zone. And he had 5 red zone opportunities last game again. Same workload he had last year, is one of the best red zone roles in football. So that's really the big thing to me. Chase the red zone roles, chase the guys we know are going to have that. Achane would have it if Miami's good enough to get there. The other guys we know are probably going to get there. And in Kyron's case, they should be theoretically dominant this week based on what the market seemed to expect out of Tennessee.
I think the one guy that's interesting to me in the 6K range that we didn't discuss is Jonathan Taylor. Sims don't love him. He's kind of my sim immune play where I'm giving him a boost, getting to him as opposed to boosting the Derrick Henry side of things. Dre Greenlaw being out is a big deal. I also think you want to, in order to help Daniel Jones succeed here, not drop back a million times, because Benito is a freak. This guy was the #1 edge rusher in PFF grading from week 1, and he got paid in the offseason for good reason. He is a monster on the edge. If you don't watch, you want to see somebody with a motor. He does not stop, but not a great run stopper. And this Broncos defense, I think that's really going to be the question for them, because I think everything else, the secondary's always been strong with, how many times can we talk about how good Pat Surtain is? Moss, I think, is very functional. They have so many great pieces on the Denver side, but if you can get the run rocking, and Indy's got some pieces on the offensive line, I like the Jonathan Taylor bell cow role a little bit here too as well. I had to boost him to get any. Are you in on JT with me as my run back for Bo Nix?
Yeah, I didn't get a ton on DraftKings, got 9%, Fields at 12. So, pretty close to holding hands. But I did like him a good amount when I was doing underdog battle royales. That one filled early, did get some entries of him there. Took FanDuel, I would feel the same way about that with the half-point PPR format. And I think a decent shot of him getting a surprise 2 touchdowns here today. He had a really good red zone role last week as well. 7 red zone opportunities in that game. The issue is that he didn't punch him in. Daniel Jones did. And frankly, if that flipped a little bit, we might be talking about that slate very differently last week as well as the one this week. But Jonathan Taylor, a power back with a dominant role. He had all the snaps before the game got out of hand. Then Giddens came in a little bit. It's just like he's got too good of a role, and a power back versus a tough defense is sort of a connection I make more, in particular for half-point PPR, than I think people like to make. Sometimes those guys just hit, and Taylor just has a dominant role. So for me, I think that he is a very sneaky play there. I would say, in my opinion, I think he's sneakier than James Conner, who's going to have a little bit more ownership, comes up a little bit more in the sim, but Conner lost a lot of work to Trey Benson for week 1. Jonathan Taylor, he was literally the unquestioned bell cow until the game got out of hand.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty fun to try to get some James Conner in your life. I'm very curious to see where ownership lands on these guys. Like, that's the big question for me, is like, how much do we how much stock do you put into the week 1 numbers? And like, we're going to see, I think, an interesting change here for New England as well. And that's going to be my other kind of Sims boost to round out that conversation. But Tony Pollard, I think, is really good for FanDuel. I think on DraftKings, he's obviously showing up enough there, getting right around 25% of my top 150 as I favorited it over there. But FanDuel, he is really showing up 5,900 for people playing over there as well. But is there anything at the running back position cheaper that you're interested in kind of moving up to the top of your lineups?
I mostly spent up this week. I think Travis Etienne, we saw him, be really good last week. Then they got rid of Tank Bigsby, which I think is as big of a cosign for him as people are reading into it being a Bashal Tutin cosign. I think they saw what they wanted out of Etienne. I wasn't actually super impressed by the underlying analytics, even though the results and the counting stats were good. He didn't really miss many tackles to get there. Like, he didn't look at it like an appreciably better back that he's been. But, Liam Cohen calls a good run game. We've seen that now for 2 years straight. I think, for 1 year and 1 game straight. For Etienne, I think it's going to be there for him this year, at least until Tutin, I guess, maybe eventually takes the role. So I would go his way. Jaylen Warren, even though there was a pretty big split of snaps with Kenneth Gainwell, Warren had the high value opportunities, had the red zone work, kind of had the stuff that he couldn't get with Najee Harris as much last year. So for Warren, I think he's a little bit in play. And Swift, I don't mind. Roschon Johnson coming in this week being active. I'm not sure how that affects things, because I thought they were going to use Roschon more, but Roschon also missed like the last month of preseason. So I don't know that he gets in and has a meaningful role, but he could take some stuff away. Swift's work was pretty good in that first game. The pass game work was there. I think he was just shy of 20 intended touches. I would not play Tyrone Tracy, though. Got him a little bit in the sim, and I think his role is, especially in the red zone, is not there with Cam Scadabo on the team now.
I want to give my guy Spags a shout out here. He does a lot of great work for us at Stokastic, at Tails. I've gotten the fortunate opportunity to work with him for 5+ years now at this point in time, which is just crazy to say out loud. But he's got an amazing channel, the Splash Play channel. Go check it out over on the YouTubes. Check out his socials. So go to Chris Spags, go follow Splash Play. I know the NBA Splash Play will be coming back as well, but throw out your underdog handle, throw out your DK handle for the people so that they can see your best ball stuff, because it's some of the best in the entire industry.
I appreciate it. Well, they can just, you can see my handle not winning money at Chris Spags on Underdog. Though I do have right now, I think of a 40% advance rate in BBM because of the Thursday night game. So let's keep that up so I can quiet the haters who think I'm all.
Stack up a week 2 Thursday for the screenshot. I appreciate that about you. It's like the game stack, or it's like in PGA when people stack up the first tee time so that they can get the screenshot no matter. Because if you even make it double, it's like, oh, you're in first. That's great. Awesome job, guys.
It's nice until it craters and you have you miss the one player that puts up 40 points in a given week. But best ball, if you're sweating it, better to not even look at it, but it's fun to look at it.
It would be great to have Puppet Lindquist host Red Zone.
Would be.
Would it? I think
you'd have to get some money because of rights fees, because technically it's a copyright infringement upon you, and I would get paid to be hosting Red Zone. So I think that would be, I would love to manipulate my life to be able to get a puppet hosting a show for $1 million a year.
Here's what we're doing. You're going to do the link join read right now with Puppet Lindquist.
I don't know the link join. I don't have that in front of me.
Just read the damn page.
Why are we doing a puppet when I'm not even on the screen? That seems pretty dumb, but go get yourself. See, it was on the screen. In fact, get a free month of Sims for every partner you signed up for. And if based on real life Eric Lindquist, that would be one partner. He's notched one partner in his life and not a single one more. But go ahead, use DraftKings, Underdog, Chalkboard, Sleeper, Underdog, FanDuel, Pick 6, BetMGM, Caesars. If you sign up for any of them, you get a free month of Sims. So get yourself a bunch of partners right away, more than Eric Lindquist has ever had, with that link join down below. Clicky, 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 clicky. Click.
Anything else running back for you?
No, that's it. I think we got it right. Javonte Williams on the slate. I'm not playing him then.
Oh, cool. All right. To the wide receiver position we go, everybody. Yes, that's the Stokastic Sims. You can sign up for that. Check out the link below. Cool. All right. Jamar Chase just got done burning the universe last week. We've got CD Lamb up here. He did not. He was useful even with 3 drops. What a dunce cap. But a lot better spot going up against a Giants secondary than what it was going up against an Eagles secondary. And we just kind of expect the Dallas Cowboys to throw a lot. We didn't talk a ton about Javonte Williams. I don't want to get crazy chasey with him. He's still cheap enough. We still know that he's going to be getting the majority of work there. But I look at Dallas, and on a week in, week out basis, I think CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, both are going to be interesting for us for tournaments. Puka Nacua, I mean, what a wonderful phrase. He continues to just smash. 7K and above, I would say the biggest 2 question marks, and it just seems as though everybody's out on Amon-Ra St. Brown, And Malik Neighbors, who I think in Dak stacks, I mean, it just makes the most sense as a run back to mix in on the Giants side. Maybe you try to go a little cheaper. Maybe you throw in a Theo Johnson here or there. But I feel pretty confident that Jamar Chase, if you just told me, hey, you have to pick one wide receiver on any given week who just has that Super Saiyan ceiling you can't live without, it's Jamar Chase. But I'm still not getting overweight to him, Spags. Is there anybody on the expensive end you find yourself getting to more than the field on?
No, relative to the Sims, I think I definitely did not end up spending a ton of money above the field, at least on some of these highest owned guys. Like I like Jamar Chase as well. I do think that we're still pricing in a lot of what he did last year into this season. And he should, again, he's going to eventually put up another 50-point game and you'll regret it. When he keeps being 20% owned and like, I'm not sure that every game is going to be a shootout. Like I think this one is a good shot to do it, but I don't think I feel that way more than the market does. I'm cool not having a crazy amount of Jamar Chase. You don't want to be left with zero, but I think with him being more than, a fifth of the field owning him, maybe even more than that, I think you got enough there. CeeDee Lamb is intriguing to me because he really had an impossible amount of air yards in week one at about 200 air yards in that game. Was targeted a good amount. The issue is the thing that we talked about earlier. George Pickens was really under-targeted. Ferguson, you could make the case, under-targeted as well. That should level out a little bit more, but thought CeeDee Lamb is somebody that had a lot of questions about Dallas coming into the year. I still have questions about the seam being good, but I think that the pass game looked a lot better. Dak Prescott looked really good, even though it's going to seem like he's going to be more of a stature quarterback based on how that game shook out, and he really did not take the running opportunities in front of him. But I like Puka Nacua the most. I actually got the least exposure in the Sims. In terms of a play, like Puka, I think 7,600, the price tag works well. Massive target share for him in week one, a 50% target per route run rate with him actually getting a feared concussion in the middle of that game, bleeding from his head, came back in, still got fed a good amount. There's been reports this week as well that they want to get Devontae Adams in the mix even more. He was targeted 28% of the time he ran a route last week. So I actually think that Adams, Puka Nacua double stack might come into play if Tennessee just keeps themselves afloat enough to make them necessitate it. But Puka, I think, is really appealing to me. And just being a little bit cheaper than the other guys, I think stands out. But really, I would have a hard time arguing these guys, and it doesn't seem like they're crazy chalk like they could be on a different slate.
Yeah, I think you made a great point here on the Dak Prescott side of things. Just to point out the stack exposures tab yet again, Dak Prescott, 0.6% of our top 150, QB +1, which I'm assuming is Pickens or Lamb. But look at this. I mean, Dak Prescott really not out there running doubles. Ferguson, Fergie Ferg, let me love you long time. Going to be somebody we talk about at tight end for sure. And then, of course, CeeDee Lamb, he's your super ceiling, but Pickens is doing enough here for me. This feels like a spot where I might be more on the Pickens side of things with the Sims, but there's no doubt that the combo of those three in some capacity showing up a ton. And I do like the onslaught idea here with Burrow, with Dak Prescott. I think you could really find yourself with 42 against the Giants, and it would not surprise me in any way, shape, or form. I think we've got some uncomfortable chalk that's coming up here next, and this kind of kicks off the 6K range. We've got A.J. Brown, who I think is a little bit more popular for a guy with a 0% separation score in week one. Terrifying type stuff, but still A.J. Brown, zoned him to death. I think that's a good way of putting it, as you brought up from that beat writer. But Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Cortland Sutton, you probably know that is different for me for sure, but Zay Flowers is going to be, I think, more popular here on FanDuel. He's going to be crazy popular because his tag is basically identical, 62, I think 6,300 over on the FanDuel side of things. And Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is no doubt going to just ball out here in Seattle, but will it result in winning football games? I don't know, but it does pretty well for your fantasy score if he's just going to dominate the slot and do what he does. How do you feel about the 6K range here? Because I think Garrett Wilson, somebody you brought up on the onside of this, is there anybody here that you're getting to a lot of like the Sims are?
Yeah, the Sims definitely force-fed me a lot of JSN, which I get the logic of. I mean, you look at the underlying numbers for this new Seattle offense. He had a 60% target per out run rate, which, for comparison's sake, for the most part, if a guy's 30% or more, I'm usually like, oh, that guy was a great play over the course of an entire season. He got fed double that amount last week. And the issue is that they didn't really target anybody else. Cooper Kupp was barely targeted, had 3 in that game, even though I do think he is mostly dust. I don't think he's going to leave a lot of games with 3 targets, 14% target per out run rate. Tight ends weren't really involved in that one. Torrey Horton, the rookie coming in, didn't even get a target in that spot. So not a situation that I think is going to be normal for them. I get why JSN is coming in so much. It does feel like the guys you just listed off, getting some more Sutton, some more Zay Flowers, some more Higgins instead of 40% in JSN, I think would be appealing. But sim-wise, that's what you get. Out of this group, though, like you mentioned, my guy who I think is just too low owned and I think has a good potential game environment. Garrett Wilson is the one I'm dying on the hill of the most relative to ownership this week. But it's a nice range, and I think it's odd the sim is just, I mean, maybe not odd, but I think it's pronounced. The sim is like JSN, and you got a bunch of guys around him that I think have very credible arguments. Even DK Metcalf, like you can make a case for.
Yeah, you can definitely make a case for DK Metcalf. 100 less for him. He looked good in week 1. Nice to be out of Seattle with Geno Smith in that situation. Although Geno was functional, I think, in week 1 with the Raiders. Nothing crazy. I mean, you're taking on the Patriots and still some issues that Vrabel's going to have to work through on that defensive side of things. But I do think with Aaron Rodgers, somebody who can key in, made Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams very fantasy viable at the end of last season. DK Metcalf, him and Calvin Austin, who is pulling like no ownership on today's slate. Calvin Austin just has that big playability and smashed last week. I'm not saying I'm going to run out some Aaron Rodgers this week by any means, but definitely going to run out some individual George Pickens. I'm a little bit over this number, sitting north of 10%, I know, in my allocation. And then Calvin Austin, somebody way off the board that people aren't getting to. But my favorite tournament play of the entire slate, and it breaks my heart because all he has done the entire week is go up in ownership. I ended up betting him, I believe it was 57.5 receiving yards. He's up to 65.5 in the market now. I thought this was just a bad number because of a couple of things. First off, Dallas Goedert is not there for the Eagles today. You also have A.J. Brown. I can't bring up 0% separation score because then it's just going to become my bit, and I don't need that being a bit. But Devonta Smith dominates in the slot. And we saw Kellen Moore offense just really go nutty for him last year at times. I think it's mainly the Spags defense on the other side, whether it's the Super Bowl. Devonta Smith has just smashed underneath this defense. And so whether Kellen Moore is there or not anymore, I don't think it necessarily matters. I think we're talking about the guy who gets targeted the most in this football game for the Philadelphia side by a pretty wide margin. I would be shocked to see Devonta Smith not get himself into 8, 9, maybe double-digit target range. And to come down with a couple of those, man, Devonta Smith, I could not love more for tournaments. How do you feel about him and anybody else in the 5K range you're gravitating towards?
Well, so my question for you would be, are you playing Devontae Smith over Hollywood Brown? Or are you playing him with Hollywood Brown? Like, what's
a little bit of both.
Like for you?
I mean, okay. It's a little bit of both. Mainly Hollywood is your cash game. You're clicking on him. He is showing up quite a bit in the Sims here at 40.6%. I brought up my deviation path for single entry is going to the Tyquan Thornton side. Now on FanDuel, where touchdowns really, really matter, I think, trying to get that deep on, we saw a couple of deep shots to Tyquan Thornton that weren't even remotely close for what it's worth. The Chargers were doing some really, really good work. And we still saw Patrick Mahomes have a pretty decent fantasy game, especially compared to last season. But Hollywood Brown, I mean, everybody is in on Hollywood Brown in that target share here this week. If Philly decides to try to take that away, obviously with their defense, they don't have to rush 3 anymore. Or they can just rush 3 with Jalen Carter back in their lives this week after last week. Spit on that thing. Feeling pretty good about getting myself to Tyquan Thornton as a really low-owned piece. Hang on. I don't feel good. I feel galaxy braining. Like I feel enlightened, if you will. A higher self, a higher version of myself, Spags. Having rostered Tyquan Thornton and his 0 fantasy points he's going to give me today.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue with Hollywood Brown, or with, trying to get leverage off of Hollywood Brown. Like I think touchdown-wise, Travis Kelce scored some touchdowns today. Hollywood Brown doesn't get in the box. I could see that. So Hollywood Brown, going back to last year, he played 2 games of the regular season, had a 45% target crowd run rate. And the reason it jumped out so much because that's incredibly high, but it's small sample size. I figured that would fall off the cliff immediately starting this year now. So obviously he had the injury to Worthy pretty early in last game, but he ended up with the first game at 36.4% target per out run rate, which is incredibly good. He had 1 deep target in that game, 1 throw of 20 plus air yards that went his way, 3 red zone targets, all of which were inside the 10-yard line. That is like a very legit role for Hollywood Brown. And I think that's sort of the issue I run with playing anybody else in this range. And frankly, sim wise, like look, the sim lineup of the week, JSN, Hollywood Brown. That's going to be two big parts at receiver. Obviously, at RB, you're going to Christian McCaffrey, get him out. It's a very clear build this week what the sim is pushing you towards, I believe. And frankly, across the industry as well. Hollywood Brown maybe even more involved than JSN across industry projections and other simulators and optimizers and things like that. But I think Hollywood Brown, his price tag, it's just too low at 5,200. He should be one of your first players in a cash game. And I still think for a tournament, like he got 16 targets last week. I don't know that he gets you 15 plus again, but I find it hard to believe he doesn't get 10 plus just based on the underlying numbers and the fact that there is like no talent left around him with Worthy out, Rashee Rice obviously out, Jalen Royals can't get healthy. Juju, we know what he is at this point. He can spike a little, but Kelsey looking older and he's planning $1 billion wedding. I just think Hollywood to me is like, it's hard to make the case for anybody in the 5K range when Hollywood is right there.
I'm completely with that. I'm not saying to play him over or that it's simply for me trying to find ways, especially on FanDuel, where again, finding the touchdown could be exponentially more valuable. On DK, definitely more on the Hollywood Brown side of things. And I think it's a pretty darn good play. Let's get into the bottom of the wide receiver range. Hit that like button. We got to get those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. We got to get the like button count up over 800 at least before we get to the end of this show. So if you're one of the 4,500 people across YouTube and X right now that have been watching us, hanging out, walking through the DraftKings and FanDuel slates together for a DFS perspective, hit that like button for us. That is a very small ask. It goes a very large way though for us. We got Calvin Ridley. He is sub 5K. I think that definitely stands out. Just in this range. Chris Olave, 4,900 as well. Both of these guys, Sims definitely in on, more so on the Calvin Ridley side of things against the Rams, which makes some sense. But Rome Odunze, they're going up against Detroit in a game that, you know, it's kind of weird. We haven't even really talked about Chicago-Detroit all that much, and it should be a track meet to some extent. Like, you got Ben Johnson back in his old stomping grounds, and you've got a Detroit team that, you know, probably looking for a little bit of payback after last week, looking pretty shell-shocked there in Green Bay. Juwan Jennings is healthy, and apparently nobody's going to click on him. Rashad Bateman, if you're trying to get to a little bit of Lamar Jackson and getting away from, you know, any kind of Zay Flowers massive chalk, although I strongly prefer Zay Flowers for what it's worth. And if Josh Downs goes off this week, don't even talk to me. Don't even talk to me. I don't want to hear it. I'm going to be inconsolable if Josh Downs goes off this week. Who do you like sub 5K for people to punt with?
The most I got was Calvin Ridley, got 25% of him here. The workload should be there for him all year. In the preseason, it was actually a phenomenal target rate that he had. Kind of came down in week one because Denver was covering him way too well. And the big thing for Calvin Ridley is like, he's not really like a winning receiver at this point in terms of like, I don't think Tennessee is going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the Super Bowl. I don't think he's going to be the one carrying an offense on his back, but he's going to beat up shitty teams a little bit more. The Rams aren't a shitty team, but they're at least closer to average than Denver, who should be one of the best secondaries in football, if not one of the best defenses overall. So they go into Ridley this week is fine. Wouldn't shock me though if he kind of flatlines this week and we have a better buying opportunity next week. Olave as a bring back to Niner stacks, I think is pretty appealing. He had 13 targets last week. He and Juwan Johnson as a double stack without the QB, I think is pretty appealing for the Saints in a game environment where we expect them to be playing from behind, if not at least trying to keep up with the Niners offense that should be able to move the ball a little. So Ridley and Olave would be my faves. Besides that, nobody above 10%. I think Rome Odunze, you kind of made half the case there. Like, I agree that the Chicago offense should be more appealing. It's hard to project these guys heading in week two with what we saw last week. But I think Odunze and DJ Moore probably in the hunt for more ownership than they're getting at, single digits. But Jennings, I like a lot. There's a shoulder injury. He barely practiced this week. Butte, a guy coming up a little bit in the Sims. I'm not crazy about him. Saving money with Alik Ayumanor at 3,200. Yep. I think you could talk me into that a little. But there's not anybody who stands out to me in like a huge way besides, I guess, Ridley and Olave.
Yeah, the bottom of the screen is a little bit cut off. This guy played a lot more than I think anybody was expecting out of I think he was like a fifth round rookie out of Stanford it was. Ayumanor, saw some late night college football of him. Last year it would have been 2 years ago. Looked all right, but yeah, didn't expect him to be on the field that much. If you're going sub 4K, if you absolutely need sub 4K, I'm happy mixing him in. But as we jump over to the tight end position, Spags, we have a question, $5 super chat from JT Mack. We've got ourselves 7 minutes before lock. So I'm not asking you to revamp your cash lineup if you don't agree with anything that we say here, but I have a specific build that I'm going for DraftKings cash today. I'm playing quite a bit of cash over there today. And I did not go to the Drake May build, which has started to take over the world here today. decided to go Lamar Jackson in cash. Who is your cash game quarterback for DK?
I'd probably go Mac Jones, but I think more than that, McCaffrey, Hollywood, Fannin, I think should be first 3 in.
Those are the first 3 in, 100%. McCaffrey, and I think Chase Brown is probably a lock for cash as well. 100% of running back opportunities is just something you're not going to pass up in cash, especially in a game environment that I think we can all agree. Jacksonville at home for Cincinnati, they should be in a good spot. So I'm probably going to throw Chase Brown in there as well. Thank you so much for the super chat. We appreciate you. And now I appreciate Spags. We're going to open up the tight end position. I don't have a stand really outside of Jake Ferguson, Fergie Ferg, let me love you long time, that I brought up earlier. But I mean, the Sims just absolutely love him. And I think I'm very happy to get to him as a 3,800 piece, not just because he's from the great state of South Dakota, but because he's Jake Ferguson in a Dallas very pass first centric offense. I'm trying to mix in a little bit more Tyler Warren in the last 6 minutes before lock, trying to just bring stack partners along for the ride everywhere, whether that's Mark Andrews, Sam Laporta, and a couple of Goff doubles that I'm looking at with Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Brenton Strange, I think, in that game environment as a run back to the Cincy pieces. I did that in a big lineup over on FanDuel. Who are your favorite tight ends to be getting to on the board for today?
I think Trey McBride is appealing just in terms of the game theory of the upside he has and getting off the beaten path of a lot of guys in this, 3 to 4K range that are going to get a good amount of ownership, whether it's people wanting to click them because they were good in week 1, like Juwan Johnson, or wanting to click them because the sim is giving them a ton, like Jake Ferguson. You're going to get, I got 33% on Stokastic. It's a lot of Jake Ferguson. I think McBride's the one that stands out to me as like, you're getting off the beaten path if you can afford that. And if he does smash in a major way, he might put up 10, 15 points more than the next tight end that's getting played as chalk. So I think he's good. Kelsey could score some touchdowns. I didn't go out of my way to get him, but I got 11% of my lineups. I think I'm fine with that number. Did dump down besides that, though. If I wasn't getting McBride, wasn't getting Kelsey, tried to go cheaper. I think Juwan Johnson's one guy based on the data. He played 75 snaps last week, had 11 targets, could have had a touchdown in that game as well, but didn't. I think Juwan Johnson's one of those guys that I would like more of than Jake Ferguson. I only got 8% in the sim of Juwan compared to 33% Ferguson. I don't think Ferguson's the play, but Stokastic gets this stuff right so many times that like I don't want to poo-poo him entirely. But I'd rather have more Juwan Johnson, less of some of these other guys.
Yep, agreed. Harold Fannin, again, this is a hefty number you're going to get running it unencumbered. I totally get it. I absolutely get it. But if this number gets ballistic, if it gets north of that 10% number, like I legitimately think there's a world where Fannin ends up 15, 20% in the milli today. And that's just going to be something where I would much rather, if you go in Josh Allen, just attach Dalton Kincaid. I don't think anybody's going to Juwan Johnson with Spencer Rattler in any kind of like a pronounced way. Tyler Warren, I think just attaching him to Daniel Jones. I mean, that's really what I'm doing today is turning a lot of these singles into doubles just by bringing the tight end for along for the ride, which I think this is the slate to kind of do it with one really pronounced piece of chalk.
Yeah, and I like Fannin too. Like, I didn't think he was going to be this good coming from Bowling Green to the NFL and getting massive target shares. But I just think for this week, like, it's a lot of ownership going to him. A little bit of the best ball brain thing too. He was pushed by a lot of sharp people out there. The great Pat Corain, who's one does legendary upside. He was pushing Fannin a lot with his company. I think people are just going to overplay Fannin. He also comes up a lot in projection sets everywhere. Just I think not playing Fannin all the time in lineups, in particular in the Millie Maker, I think is a wise move.
Guys, this was awesome. We're 3 minutes? 3 minutes from week 2, NFL Sunday, Red Zone with 2 minutes of commercials in the middle of commercial-free football, which I'm excited about. You're excited about. Hit that like button, baby. We're going to round it out the only way we know how. Defense. Yeah, it's such a buzzkill when you get to the end and it's like, oh, the defense. We should almost like find a way to go out and build some lineups here as we get out. You know what? F it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to head over to DraftKings right now. We're going to build out the week 2 lineup to win them all, the lineup to find them. Spags, this is our single lineup simulator that we've got over at Stokastic. It's beautiful. It's nifty. Who do we want to build out for our DraftKings lineup today?
To save the people from you leading them to the slaughter with a Bo Nix stack, I'll take Justin Fields up top.
All
a
right.
Natural QB option here, a guy who actually runs, opposed to running a little bit last year. People think he still runs.
Well, I guess we're going to bring Garrett Wilson now, unless you really, I mean, I can't imagine Mason Taylor, somebody, I mean, I just got done talking about it. I actually have a bet on Mason Taylor over 19.5 receiving yards from a pick'em perspective. But that all being said, I don't really love the idea of him at the tight end position. Let's give the people a running back to kind of mix it up and get a little bit different. I like the JT play, talked about it a little bit just to get different, but I'm actually in on Kyren Williams this week. I think at 6,300, this is just a low tag for somebody who's playing like every single slate. Blake Corum. Why did they even draft Blake Corum at this point? Like, Blake Corum was good in college, and apparently they don't feel he is that in the NFL.
No, I mean, he lost some juice along the way. Should have come out the year before, honestly, in college. But I'm with you. I think Kyron's a strong play. Put in McCaffrey for me too. I think he's still good chalk on the week, and I think he'll help the sim number that we get in the final.
Let's give the people the tight end play that we want to get to as well, or should we just, because otherwise we know that it's going to end up being Fannin.
Yeah, I would say put in Hollywood at receiver. Like because we got to save some savings here.
Love this. Again, this is the beautiful thing about utilizing this tool, everybody. When we're building everything out with 1 minute left to go here, we can simply add Hollywood Brown. If I can add Hollywood Brown. Oh, I hit the ownership number. That's not what I meant to hit. There we go. I didn't mean to do that. We're going to go to the randomness. I'm going to go 5%, and I'm going to complete this lineup here for the folks. Oh, look at this. See, we still got to Fannin. No matter what we did. You just can't avoid
JSN
it.
Too. JSN,
you can't avoid it. JSN. Let's see how we did to round out our show. Great lineup, Spags. 74.4% simulated ROI. I feel it in my fingers.
You're fielding it in your heart and your fingers.
Oh. Well,
really
we're going to end on that galaxy. Oh my God. Everybody's leaving immediately to go watch Red Zone. But hey, he's Chris Spags at Chris Spags. I'm Eric Lindquist. You can go follow us both over on the socials. That's mine. That's his. My hand won't go down there. That would be creepy. But Chris, any final words for the people as we get out of here?
I know. Check out my YouTube channel at Splash Play Pod. Do videos on there for all the primary slates that I'm playing, giving you guys the best data I can. And I will just sum it up. We got a bet going. Fields and Garrett Wilson versus Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton in fantasy points with massive ramifications for next week. Will Eric be my voodoo doll? We'll find out if I'm going to be pricking you on next week.
I was going to say, somebody said, this is fun. Thanks, y'all. Good luck, everyone. And then you just ruined it. So awesome. Let's get ourselves out of here. Check out these Stokastic Sims. Again, the link down below. Sign up with one of our partners. Follow these simple instructions. Takes you all of 2 minutes. And get yourself the Sims tool. This beautiful thing on screen here. And then check out NFL Live Before Lock for Showdown this evening. That is going to be a good one. That'll be Emac and Bellman bringing everything to you a little bit later here this evening. He's Spags. He's awesome and funny. I'm Eric. I am average at best. We'll see you guys later.